Every year, the world celebrates MSME Day, which stands for Micro, Small and Medium Sized Enterprise on June 27. In 2017, the United Nations General Assembly assigned June 27 as MSME Day, with the objective to raise awareness of the immense contributions of MSMEs to the achievements of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. For India, which is home to more than 64 million MSMEs, only second to China, this is an important day. MSME Day recognizes the vital roles played by these enterprises in innovation, job creation, and economic growth. The MSME sector contributes 30% to India's gross domestic product and about 45% total exports. The sector employs 110 million people across the country. The theme of ET World MSME Day 2025 is Innovation, Impact and Intelligence, which aims to acknowledge the efforts and contributions of the Indian MSME industry in fostering positive transformation in India's economic growth. Today, we have a stellar lineup of speakers, including Dr. Arvind Virmani, member of Niti Aayog, the chairman and managing director of the National Small Industries Corporation Limited, Dr. Subhranshu Sekhar Acharya, and Mr. Ajit Chavan, additional CEO and Chief Seller Officer at Government E-Marketplace or GEM. At the outset, I would like to thank our sponsors, the New India Assurance Company Limited and IDBI Bank, for being our partners in this journey. Now, to get things started, I would like to invite Pran Bihama Borpazare, Senior Associate Editor, Economic Times Digital, to deliver this welcome address.
Thank you, Garima. Good morning, everyone. It is my great pleasure to address you today as we come together to celebrate MSME Day, a day that reminds us of the extraordinary strength, creativity, and contribution of India's micro, small, and medium enterprises. MSMEs are not just the backbone of the economy, and my colleague Garima has already laid out the contributions they make. India's MSME landscape is as diverse as it is dynamic. From the world-renowned carpets of Bhadohi, woven with intricate tradition and craftsmanship, to the bustling textile units of Tirupur, powering global fashion supply chains. From the ceramic clusters of Morbi in Gujarat, exporting to over 100 countries, to the precision tool units of Pune and the handloom weavers of Assam. Our MSMEs showcase the strength of Made in India. What truly stands out, especially in recent years, is the resilience of the MSME sector. Faced with global disruptions, supply chain shock, and a shifting market dynamics, our entrepreneurs have not just endured but adapted and evolved, embracing digital tools, rethinking business models, and entering new markets with confidence. Today, we are also proud to announce the launch of the sixth edition, the MSME Awards 2025, an initiative that honors excellence, innovation, and impact in the MSME ecosystem. The ET MSME Awards 2025 are not just about recognition, they're about amplifying success stories, inspiring others, and reinforcing our collective commitment to empowering the sector. As we look ahead, let us continue to strengthen and support our MSMEs. Policy, partnerships, finance, technology, and skilling. Let us ensure that every small business in India has the tools and the confidence to think big. On this MSME Day, let's celebrate the spirit of small enterprises and their power to build a brighter, more self-reliant India. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pran. The natural course of progression for an enterprise is that you may start as a micro firm, but you scale and grow to a small and then medium firm. However, that is not happening in India. which is a major cause of concern. In a conversation with ET Digital's Neha Diwan, Dr. Arvind Virmani, member at Niti Aayog, talks about addressing the issues of firms failing to scale, increasing R&D spends, and disruptions around tariffs and geopolitics.
Smaller companies are more affected, and that is where this below 10 and high more than 10 divide actually works. The compliances are lower for less than 10, so that has the perverse effect of not wanting to grow. The medium enterprises are the ones who are operating at a much higher quality and are in principle have the potential to compete globally. So I think the advice is very clear. MSMEs should be out there. This is the time to look for buyers. They are looking. Find them. Future means we are going to be Viksit. So you must build for a Viksit quality.
We have with us today Dr. Arvind Virmani, senior economist and member Niti Aayog, who will tell us more on why small businesses are integral to India's economic growth and how they can aim to become global champions. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Virmani. It's great to have you with us here.
Thank you.
First of all, like addressing the ground realities, the MSME sector plays a crucial role in the country's economic growth. But despite various government schemes, they find it challenging to scale up. Why do you think that is the case?
Well, we've got to remember that there are kind of two segments to the MSME sector. Of course, there are many, but it's useful to divide into two, which is given by the laws. So there are SMEs, which are basically 10 or more workers, and there are what I would call household and micro enterprises. We call them micro, but within it, the household part is much larger. 70 to 80 to 90% of that, which are just one person enterprises. So it's kind of important to keep those two distinctions in mind when we discuss this. But there are several points which affect all of them. Of course, as we all know, that these employ a larger part of the non-agricultural workforce, so they are clearly very important from that perspective. The SMEs also are major exporters, but again, those have limitations in the sense of their what globally they might be called niche exporters and involved in traditional exports. So one I would say is basic infrastructure. Which applies to both these two categories which I mentioned. Often we will come and discuss the medium enterprises which are the top, but the general point is that just the basic infrastructure in industrial areas. I mean, I went to an industrial area in Delhi 20 years ago. It was pathetic. I plan to go and see whether there is much improvement, but basic water, roads, drainage, cleanliness, sewage systems, and kind of sustained maintenance of the area. When we think of urban development and cleanliness, we think of residential areas, but to get enterprises of high quality and functioning at the levels we expect, the basic infrastructure has to be there. They cannot be worrying about overflow of sewage pipes every other day. If they are getting people from outside to buy things, or they are getting an export order. So that is one. The second is land use laws. I just mentioned two and move to the last point. Laws, rules. So one, for example, the conversion of agricultural land into industrial land. How will you get entrepreneurs in rural areas if that process is very difficult? Because and you can see that the states which allow it, a person in a village can say, okay, I will not do like agriculture, let me try some manufacturing. So and the third is demand risk. A lot of small enterprises are single product, single buyer things, so the risk is higher. So when we say, oh, why cannot they get credit as easily? Because they are more risky, because of the way, because of the small scale, they are restricted. So if that one buyer says, no, I don't need your product anymore, that's it. Okay, so where is the credit going to be repaid? And finally, the critical one, which is overlooked, is the skills, the level of skills. And of course, just mention that at the lowest level, what I said, HME, there are schemes for all these things, but the HME one is very important because it's new. It not thought of before, the Vishwakarma scheme. So the skilling part has been neglected, for decades. But I think it's getting more attention, and one of my efforts has been to how to make sure the quality of that whole thing, the kind of knowledge and information that they get is improved.
On a similar note, it's a large portion of small businesses in India operate informally. So, do you see the informality as a symptom of overregulation or more due to lack of incentives to formalize?
So, this links us back to those two categories which I said. Generally, you'll recall that the formal sector is kind of of course, we are talking about non-agriculture. And more focus on manufacturing and industry here rather than services. And that is the ASI. Okay, so ASI captures what is the formal sector, which is roughly what I told you, the 10 or more workers versus 10 or less. So the less than 10 is the informal. Again, efforts have been made, clearly. If laws, rules, regulations are more complicated, procedures are more complicated, they spend more cost and effort, and we'll come back to that aspect. But the efforts have been made to simplify the laws, rules, digitize the forms, make compliance. But as I have asserted in many times in the last several decades, that the jungle of control which was built up, it just doesn't go away by changing the law. We have to dig into every little thing. There's a whole structure which was built over 30 years of, wrong policies, I would say, which is very hard to reverse. It's not just a matter of laws, rules. It's also how the whole system operates. So one has to, the analogy of a jungle, one has to go through every area and cut the jungle. And that's difficult. So one is trying to do that. And from the perspective of the small person, there are kind of fixed costs of compliance, and therefore, if you produce a small amount, the unit cost is higher. If you may think of it, it's almost like a product cost, but it's a cost of compliance. So smaller companies are more affected, and that is where this below 10 and more than 10 divide actually works. The compliances are lower for less than 10. So that has the perverse effect of not wanting to grow. Okay, so in that threshold, they just divide into two units. If they are going to go 11, they will just divide up. And that keeps, eventually, in the longer term, keeps you from attaining scale and getting, for example, a common marketing person or something. When you keep dividing, you will still have that cost problem which I mentioned. A little less, but still there. And the second type of cost is most of these, including SMEs, are owner managers, except for the highest, what we call the medium. They are owner managers, right? So their time is limited. So if they have to spend more time on compliance, they have less time for other things, including innovation and other things. So there is a challenge, and the best way, and perhaps the only way to do it, is reduce that time and other costs of compliance, and that has been the effort of the government. But it's a kind of long road, and it also has to stretch down to the states. It's not just we can sit in Delhi and do all this. Every state kind of has to do its bit, because much of this compliance actually happens at the ground level, at the local level actually. But that is the state's kind of purview.
So, when it comes to NITI Aayog's role, what is NITI Aayog considering to ease the transition from informal to formal structures for micro and small enterprises?
So one of the important things, as I said, again there is a kind of there is of course the difference, but information and knowledge is critical, right? So for example, if you don't even if you don't have a knowledge about something you can do better, you will not look for it. So so somebody else who you trust has to tell you. So that is one of the roles of government, right, of NITI in a way, is to get information they are completely unaware of and therefore not searching for it, and go and make that available at that level. So that is one, but also that also applies to information to states, to officials. One state is doing better, but the other state may not be aware how it is done, right? So one of the roles is to see, okay, what are the good things being done in XYZ state and give it to ADC. Obviously, it depends on their own willingness and their own motivation. You can't force anything down anybody's throat. In our system, we have independent states. So one of the things which NITI is doing is what follows from the directions given by the Honorable Prime Minister several months ago, which is to see how we can define the strengths and weaknesses of different states in attracting investment in infrastructure and manufacturing. So once that index is built, it's now in phase 2, and it will be completed in the months to come. But once that index is there, if a state which is not doing so well is really wants to do, then it will have some kind of a roadmap that, okay, they are weak in these 3 types of efforts, and if they really want, they can improve those and therefore attract more investment and attract more FDI. So that is one important step. As I said, it fits with our overall perspective of getting information and knowledge from the right place to the right place, so that the states have that information, and then obviously it will depend on their own motivation, their own goals, etc.
This brings me to my next question, which is also about NITI Aayog's latest report on medium enterprises and how it kind of it highlights their vital contributions to India's GDP and how it can help scale the economy, the Indian economy. So a lot of times their contribution is not really considered, like micro enterprises what is spoken about more. How can the potential of medium enterprises be fully harnessed?
Right. So I'll say that it's important because the medium enterprises are the ones which can go to the next level. So what we have analyzed is that they are quality chains, right? So the lowest level have a poor quality chain. What does that mean? That means the materials, the equipment, the tools, the skill levels of those who run these things, the knowledge and information of the owner manager, all that it is of a certain quality. The medium enterprises are the ones who are operating at a much higher quality and are in principle have the potential to compete globally. So for example, I'll tell you a recent report we did on the NITI did on hand tools. Okay, so there were a whole bunch of hand tool manufacturers. We looked into exactly these sort of things which you have been asking me, and then there was 1 or 2 people who were already exporting. They are in a whole different category, and those are the ones which will be this new medium sector. Of course, there is the startup sector which is a separate issue we can go in, but they will also be the star. The medium enterprises have that capability of upgrading that quality chain because the gap is not so large. When you're talking about the normal, whether it's a food processing chain or any other industry, engineering industry, there are companies making engineer goods who are in that top quality chain. While there will be others who will do chalta hai type of work, which is okay for ordinary type of stuff. So basically it's right through. That's the important point we have to remember, that it is the materials they use, because that material then has to be processed by certain types of tools and equipment and has to have the skills to operate that and test it and so on. So there is a whole quality chain, and that is feasible in the medium enterprise. They are the ones, you recall the budget, there was a thing about labor intensive industries being encouraged to export more. So one would look at this medium sector in that context, that they are both labor intensive and have the potential quality and competitiveness to compete globally.
So do you think medium enterprises can lead the Indian economy to scale when we speak about them?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are the ones who are capable of scaling. And then, of course, one was that 10 barrier. There is, of course, another 100, 300 worker barrier, etc. All those have to be simplified and made less onerous, so to say.
Right. I want to speak a bit about about digital infrastructure or digital literacy. How much of a lack of that is a barrier to scaling for small businesses, especially in rural and semi-urban areas?
Absolutely. So we kind of moved down from the medium to the small, let's say, and also micro, some of the micro. I think there's an important thing. I visited recently. I visited Batinda and Hisar. So, and this is something I came across. The lack of information, even about schemes to benefit them, which are already in existence, they were not aware of. They were not aware of the ONDC platform. So they have difficulty selling goods, but they don't know they can be on the ONDC platform. They are not aware of it. So somehow I think that's so one of the things I learned is that they use let's say more use because their children, they use WhatsApp channels. Okay, so these are all new things which we have to kind of learn and use to give knowledge, to make them participate in skilling, which will then be needed. Like I said, when you improve the quality, there's a whole chain of things you have to do. You have to educate yourself. You have to get skilled people, and then the government also comes in. The government must help generate these skills. You had asked, is it only regulation or is it? No, there are many things connected with skills which are very important also. And this is one example of that. So the digital part, perhaps for some people, when you go further down, it's literacy. For some people, is what channels they are using and what the state governments or central government departments are using. So this is a whole new area which I think everybody is learning about, but the question is valid one.
Again, R&D is also a significant parameter when it comes to innovation, and India is holding one of the lowest R&D spends when compared to other international counterparts. So how can such gaps be bridged in your view to foster the development of MSMEs in general and medium units in particular?
Yeah, so the conventional analysis, which is fine to the degree it goes, shows you that the government and public sector do enough research compared to peers, much more actually if you take by per capita, but then we want to compete with the upper part. So, but the private sector is not doing so. So, in my view, it really doesn't serve the purpose to say do more, etc. So what is the reason? Okay, well, being a think tanker, that's my job, right? I have to find an economic reason why that is happening. So I have a basic, simple approach to it. There is a technology frontier. Indian companies, we have talked about whole MSMEs, right? The whole range of quality chains. Many of them operate well within that frontier. Those who are exporters are close to the frontier. So it's really a two-stage thing. Can you produce export quality goods and compete with them? Otherwise, what's the point of doing research, right? It's not some one-man show or somebody who's running with 10 people is going to do research, right? For what purpose? I've just told you that they don't even have the information of stuff which is available out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so it has to be somebody who is competing in the export market. Otherwise, I mean, if I was there, I wouldn't even think of doing R&D. Why should I do when I am just competing with everybody else like me? So the competitive system and export competitiveness is critical for R&D to happen. So if there is too much protection, okay, in an industry, I wouldn't expect anybody to do R&D. Okay, so the first thing is, what is the incentive from their side to do R&D? Why do you do R&D if you feel that competitor is going to get something better, a product or a process which will reduce the cost and he'll be able to wipe you out, right? Or he'll produce a new product and get all the market away from you, right? So that is the basic driver of private sector R&D. So firstly, there have to be conditions which produce that, okay? So that there is an incentive to move at least to the frontier and then do. Now, this does not really apply. So where is it? Let's take the other extreme now. Where is it that we are close to the frontier? Everybody recognizes, for example, that in four-wheelers, we are at the frontier, okay, from whoever we have talked to. That's where the R&D is occurring. It is happening. Now, the issue is, what can the government do to facilitate it? And this is the controversial issue. I personally believe that we should bring back the R&D subsidy. Now, there was a bad experience 10 years ago, 20 years ago, where it was thought that people were just misusing this double deduction subsidy for R&D. And there are solutions to that, but many people just go, oh, bad experience hua hai, nahi karenge. But what I say is, there's a whole new world out there. You've got digital, you've got monitoring, you've got so many other things. For example, one simple example, just to throw off an idea, you could just focus it on countries, sectors where you know we are on the frontier, because then those are the guys who actually have this motivation. So you could say, okay, we will pick out these 10 high-tech sectors or whatever, and then see which are the firms on it objectively by a criteria, and then say, okay, these sectors with this type of activity will all get the thing if they do R&D. That way you don't have every Tom, Dick and Harry saying I'm doing R&D when they are not doing anything.
Right.
So finding a solution, giving a focused subsidy to encourage it, I think is still very important. Many countries across the world give incentives for R&D. We withdrew it because of bad experience. I think we need to reevaluate.
Okay, and moving on in terms of the revised definition of the MSME sector, do you think that can help in achieving some of the things that we've spoken about, like higher efficiencies of scale, tech upgradation, and access to capital? And also, if there's any disadvantage in your view?
Right. So you recall you mentioned the incentives go away. Certain types of incentives are linked to scale. So obviously, if you change the definition, that part of scaling then will occur. So, for example, if the cutoff was lower, if there are a lot of companies at that level are then dividing into two, that will not happen till they reach that upper stage. So, absolutely right. The scale can be improved with the rise in limits to the extent that there are incentives or the other side, non-incentives or whatever, linked to that scale. Okay. So, yes, definitely they will occur. Now, in this game, what the critical point is that they should be able to get to what, for an economist again, is what we call minimum efficient scale. So you want that limit to be higher than the minimum efficient scale, because otherwise you could say, why have that limit also? But the key point is it should be above the minimum, then it's fine. You can have it right there. Of course, you don't know exactly what the MES is. So once they attain MES, then that scale is good enough. Okay, that's the whole definition of minimum efficient scale. So yes, raising the limit above the minimum efficient scale is good. It will promote scale and greater competitiveness.
Okay, and since we are on the topic of scale, many Asian countries have successfully scaled up their SME sectors.
Good
So,
point.
what lessons can India learn from, say, Vietnam, Indonesia, or China?
Yeah, that's a very important question. So, what is the lesson? So, one of the most important, there may be many lessons, but and China, of course, being a big country, has many lessons for everybody. But from if you take Southeast Asia in general, the big lessons is they went all out there to attract FDI and laid out the red carpet for them to set up supply chain. This didn't happen in 1 year or 2 years, but they consistently first they attracted the FDI. Of course, new FDI is coming all the time. But those guys who were there, and I have talked to individual companies who have operated in China, for example, who are now in India. But then, when a large company came in, which has supply chains in US or whatever at that time, they just made sure they laid out the red carpet to get them to build that supply chain there, and they provided all the help. And that is what has transformed them. That is what led them to leapfrog our per capita income. So all the Southeast Asian countries who did that and did it successfully now have much higher gap in per capita income than us. So that is the big lesson, that FDI and supply chains, if you can get them, even in this period of turmoil, it's a different world. But if you can get them, that will be a huge driver of medium sector, small sector. Small sector here will be more the startups. There are already some amazing startups which I was amazed at. I heard about in the last year or two, which can produce really sophisticated stuff, but it's a small item. It may be you have a huge plant making all kinds of things, but there is some critical tool, okay, which has to be replaced everything. They can make it. You import it from Germany or Japan, but they can make it. Okay, so there are these startups. So startup is small. Okay, then there are medium companies who you say, okay, I will need so many million of these parts. Can you make it? They can make it. So that is what happened. So, but they had to encourage. They had to make sure if that company said, okay, either give me a huge piece of land. If they couldn't give a huge piece of land, they said, okay, we will give it to you across the city, right? Where we make land for you. So being helpful. They said skilling, that okay, skilling, can the government help in the skilling? Yes, the government said, okay, we can do some education, but the special skills, why don't you set up a skilling center? Okay, so basically making it easy for them to set the supply chain. Everybody will benefit. Okay, the medium industry, the small industry, of course, different ones from different. It's not like one company will benefit everybody. So, but if you have 100 companies who do this across this country, we have 28 states. What I have said, only not joking, but if every state brings in one anchor investors, you will transform the every state in the next 10 years. Manufacturing will be on the way to Atmanirbhar manufacturing. So that is the lesson. Very clear lesson.
Yeah, so I mean, lot of, as you mentioned, lot of red carpet treatment and lot of support, which had to mobilize. Such
It can be done. It is not difficult. It's the motivation of the states. You're back to the states. Okay. Let me give you a concrete example. Single window clearance, where the single window actually is working. Those are the states where getting this stuff. They are getting the anchor investor. They are getting the FDI. That's why I didn't want to name the states.
Right. And you spoke about manufacturing as well. So India has not been able to capitalize as much as it had hoped in the China plus one strategy. How can there be a turnaround, especially when we have strengths such as a large market and demographic dividend on its side?
It is not true that we have not benefited. Okay, we have benefited in the 2 or 3 best studies I've seen, which come from World Bank, etc., show that in terms of looked at from the US point of view, the tariffs imposed in 2018 in 4 tranches India is the top 3 to 5 gainer. Some studies show we are third, others show we are fifth. Okay, and how do they, in simple terms, imports from US imports from China have gone down. They have gone up from countries including Taiwan is always Vietnam is always mentioned. They are clearly all these studies the top gainer. We are the third largest gainer. That means the increase in US imports from India as a result of their tariffs on China has been the third highest, or in few studies fifth highest. So we have gained. Now the question is, how can we gain more? That is the real issue. Okay, because given our size, we should be gaining 10 times Vietnam, let's say. I mean, just a number pulled out. So that is really the issue, and that is connected to what I said about FDI and supply chain. But what is the policy we are pursuing? That also is very clear. The policy is having FTAs with countries which are the source of FDI and demand for manufacturers. That is what the supply chain is all about. Why do we want supply chain? Not for the sake of itself, because that anchor investor will use the supply chain to supply to somebody. No? He's not just producing to throw away. He has to produce to supply some demand. So that is what is driving it. And how will we drive it? How will we make sure that tens of companies come? Is through these FTAs. Okay. So the FTA with UK is done. UK is one of the larger importers of manufactured goods in the world. US, EU are the top two if they treat EU as a single entity. And therefore the FTAs is what is part of our strategy to achieve this. This comprehensive and much bigger shift in the next 5 to 10 years. Not just be satisfied being number 3 or 5. We should be number 1 by a big stretch. And just to give you specific, again, if it is too theoretical, in the European market, Vietnam has a FTA with Europe, and it immediately gets an advantage of between 10 and 20% for products. That advantage will go. So our exports to EU will certainly increase.
What should the MSME sector's strategy be in the backdrop of recent tariff and trade developments? And how can they safeguard themselves in the light of such an unpredictable economic landscape?
We know that some tariff was imposed, then it was suspended. Okay, on India, but not on China. And from all the information which came in the next couple of weeks, month or so after that, was that a lot of US companies were desperately looking for Indian suppliers of the same products. Okay, so I think the opportunity is much greater than the threat. So in engineering goods, in household items, in many others, there were reports, textiles, and many other things. They were looking for suppliers in India. So I think the advice is very clear. MSMEs should be out there. This is the time to look for buyers. They are looking. Find them. I mean, again, government is trying to do its little bit with the Honorable Prime Minister has talked about this mart, international mart. It is so difficult. There is no platform where a foreign buyer can just say, okay, I want to buy, let's say, toasters from India. To build some kind of platform or a mart, then you could say, okay, here are 3 toaster manufacturers and let me contact them. Okay. So government is again trying to do, but the MSMEs who feel they want to expand, this is the opportunity.
Lastly, MSME Day is also coming up on June 27th. So it becomes a very relevant time to ask this question, that what is your vision for Indian MSMEs over the next decade, and what must change for them to become global champions?
See, vision is a philosophical thing. The Prime Minister has said so many times that everybody should have their own vision. So I think it is not for me, being an ET member, to give a vision for MSMEs. The vision for MSMEs will come from the MSME department. Okay, they have a vision. As you and the idea was that each department each ministry should develop their visions of the things they are responsible for. Each state, we already now have 5, 6, 7 states who have developed their own visions. We are helping those who want our help in this. Many of them, they can do it themselves. They are getting the help of consultants, etc. So really, I don't think having that's the whole change from planning. In the old days of planning, when I was here, we used to have this plan for the chemical industry, for this and this, that, and that was it, right? And then you allocated some money to the public sector, never to the private. So the vision is what the vision will come from them. What I am we have talked about is the policy analysis, which you have asked questions on regulation, on what are the issues. We have mentioned basic ground level infrastructure, land policies, electricity pricing. Those are the things which will empower them in a way, right? If they have more time for doing things. Now, MSME, we just said, the MSMEs who are capable, who have the time, should be going out there, meaning even just searching on the internet or something to find buyers. So it's really about policies rather than detailed things, which you really, MSME ministry would be the right. The spirit of it is very clear that two things. One is that we must not think only of the current, that there is X demand and we will meet X demand. We must think of the future, where we want to be and build for the future. That is one idea which kind of comes from the PM. And second is that future means we are going to be Viksit. So you must build for a Viksit quality. It cannot be satisfied with where we are today. If I'm producing something which is, 30% inferior to, let's say, German product or Japanese product in machinery, let's say, where they are the best. A machinery manufacturer must think that in 5 years or whenever we are Viksit, we must be of that quality. And you have to start doing that now. Okay, and that applies to MSMEs. That applies to the startups. Yes, okay. So the vision is the startups, in a sense, that is a vision, is that the startups will drive this push for higher quality, the frontier of the MSME sector. Yes, they are going to be the new MSMEs. And they are the ones who will transform productivity and growth. Yeah. And which is why so much emphasis has been placed on the startup infrastructure, the startup funding, the fund of funds, etc. And the fact that we are saying that we need more STEM type of technical people, because they are there. It's just a matter of connecting them into the system. Okay, and that is the vision. Actually, you're right. That is the vision. That is the future.
Right. So, building for the future, manufacturing, scale, and Atmanirbharta. MSMEs need to do all this and more and become global champions of the future. Thank you so much, Dr. Virmani, for joining us today and giving us those insights. I'm sure there will be many takeaways which the industry can adopt and adapt to. Thank you so much for your time.
You.
Thank you.
From climate to geopolitics to even technology, the changing ecosystem in which businesses need to operate today exposes them to many risks. Next, Neha Devan from ET Digital engages in a conversation with Girija Subramanian, Chairman and Managing Director at the New India Assurance Company Limited, on the subject of future-proofing India's small businesses, the new blueprint for risk and resilience. Over to you, Neha.
New India Assurance, a name synonymous with trust and reliability. From humble beginnings to becoming the largest non-life insurance company in India, our journey has been nothing short of remarkable. Embracing technology and innovation, New India Assurance has stayed ahead of the curve, introducing groundbreaking solutions to meet the ever-evolving needs of its customers. At the heart of New India Assurance lies a set of core values. These values have guided us through the decades, earning the trust of millions of policyholders across the nation. Together, we leave a footprint of greatness.
As part of the ET World MSME Day 2025, our ongoing conversations highlight the critical challenges and opportunities shaping the MSME landscape. The New India Assurance Limited is the general non-life insurance partner for World MSME Day 2025. This fireside chat with Girija Subramanian, CMD, the New India Assurance Company Limited, is a key part of our campaign to empower small businesses with the right tools for growth. How can insurance gap be bridged for MSMEs to ensure they are better protected for the future? Why are MSMEs still skeptical when it comes to taking up insurance coverage? Let us hear more on this from our guest today. Welcome, Ms. Subramanian. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Right, so I'll just get down to asking you some very basic questions which are pertinent from the kind of things which are happening all around us. Specifically, if you talk about, say, climate change, there are a lot of climate risks rising, like heat waves and floods. So insurance is gaining traction for India's SME and agribusiness segment in these kind of domains. So is New India Assurance exploring or piloting such offerings post-March 2025?
Yes, New India Assurance is actively evaluating parametric and weather derivative-based products post-March 2025. We have recently launched a parametric product called Nishchit Suraksha, which takes care of all weather-driven triggers and the heat wave kind of triggers to give parametric kind of products across the diverse section of our customer base, both MSME and otherwise. So basically, we are since MSME is a very big sector spanning across various industries and set up across the length and breadth of India. All the weather parameters of weather, diverse areas, they are very much. It's possible to cover our MSME businesses by going for these parametric covers, and we have launched a lot of such products. We have been providing cover for already. And one of the specialties of parametric cover is that it is unlike the traditional cover. There is an instant cash flow when there's a loss, when there's a triggers are breached, either a temperature trigger or a rainfall based trigger. So if that is breached, immediately a loss gets paid, and the loss is paid without any traditional loss assessments which are normally there, which take time. So in this case, it's automatic and quick, and therefore it's a very preferred one for SME sector because they can get quickly back into business, and it improves their financial resilience in a big way.
Right, and quite the need of the hour with the kind of unpredictable incidents that keep happening, so they can be covered from these kind of risks, as you said. But how do you see these accelerating claim settlement and risk management for SMEs?
Yeah, because as soon as the claim is triggered or the particular level is breached, claim gets payable, and normally it is paid in a few hours or a few days. It doesn't take the kind of time that it normally takes in a traditional product, and therefore the business continuity is very seamless for the SME sector, which is very important that they get back into business in the shortest possible time. So I think this helps the resilience in a big way, the risk management in a very big way. And if the SME sector is supported by credit, then obviously the insurance comes in the way to see that these guarantees are not invoked, and therefore it gives a much more resilience to the business.
Right. Moving on to my next question, SIDBI and CGT MSE have begun deploying AI-enabled credit guarantee tools and digital lending. Is New India collaborating with these fintech or credit guarantee platforms to offer embedded insurance cover alongside working capital loans to MSMEs?
Actually, we are aware that there's a shift to AI-driven credit tools, and there is also a lot of digital lending that is happening. Though we are not currently embedded with either SIDBI or CGT MSC, we are actively looking at these opportunities, both in public and private platforms, so that we can engage with MSME sector in a more embedded format. And definitely it will be very interesting to see that we work with these kind of P2B enterprises, fintech companies, so that we are able to provide embedded products in property, liability, PA, or health covers alongside the loan or the that is taken, so that we are able to protect that particular credit facility that is being made available to the MSC, and we are able to see that the business continuity happens in a very seamless way. Insurance can significantly reduce the risk of guarantee invocation by providing timely relief in the event of a cat loss or in the event of a loss that is protected by the cover. So it's a very innovative and a very it's perfect for an SME entity to go for this kind of an embedded insurance plan.
Right, I think there are a number of options which they can choose from depending on their specific asks. But is there enough awareness? Like, how do you spread the word of awareness among MSMEs for these kind of customized programs?
Yeah, it is very true that there is a severe lack of awareness. In the last 5 years, I think the government has worked a lot for the SME sector. A lot of schemes have been launched. A lot of policy changes have been made. And I think once the government and policymakers make such a huge beginning, it is just a matter of time before business and opportunities, business and industries see the opportunity in all this. I think this is a transition phase right now where businesses like insurance sector are seeing the opportunity in this space. And I think most of the insurance companies are aligned to covering this sector extensively. And it is a matter of time when you will find that most SME business is covered in one way of insurance or the other.
Right, and I think that will future-proof their businesses in a better way instead of just thinking about the immediate short term.
Currently, New India is engaging in a lot of awareness programs, especially the state of Gujarat, where we are the state insurer. We do a lot of awareness programs. We try to, see that we talk to them about products that we have specifically built for SME sector. Try to tell them how it covers them in adverse situations and how they can get back to business, in the shortest possible time. And I think it's a matter of time, because as education goes up, levels go up, the awareness levels go up, the trust element goes up with insurance as a sector, then I think, you'll find insurance playing a major role in financial inclusion here.
Wonderful. There was a recent Niti Aayog analysis which showed that medium-sized enterprises, even though they are small in number, generate a significant share of exports. So how is New India Assurance tailoring outreach to these units? And are you planning any segment-specific underwriting or engagement models for them?
Yeah, actually, it's true. The SME sector, contributes to a big deal, both in the GDP and in the exports of the country. I think to the range of around 40%. So it's a big, very big contribution, and I think this is an area that really needs to be protected and encouraged. And from that perspective, New India has developed specific products for the SME sector. We call it Udyam Bima product of New India that caters to the SME sector. We also have a women-centric women entrepreneur-centric product called Mahila Udyam Bima Yojana, for which gives protection for women entrepreneurs. And I think these kind of products, which when sold through the retail channels, through our other distribution channels like the bank assurance channels, and once we start selling them heavily, and then Word to word also the awareness spreads once you start paying claims, once actually somebody sees the proof of the pudding. I think that's when the awareness really goes up. And I think New India today is trying everything that is possible to see that we reach to the SME sector. We are talking to the associations. We are trying to hold seminars, workshops for these people. We attend all the other government workshops and large congregations of SME sector wherever they are held, and we try to also showcase our product to try to convince them to take these insurances so that they are protected, sufficiently for carrying out their business smoothly. So I think it's a matter of time before you find this becoming very popular.
But like, do you have anything specific for medium-sized enterprises? Micro enterprises are mostly spoken about when we talk about the MSME ecosystem. Medium-sized enterprises are lesser in number, bigger in revenues. Do you have anything tailored for them?
Yes. So our product that is there, this is Udyam Bima, that also tailors for the mid-sized products or mid-sized companies. So the sum assured levels go up, and otherwise generally the protections and other facilities available in the products are the same.
All right. Okay. Moving on, we've seen partnerships like those with public sector banks to reach MSMEs. Considering the boom in MSME focused B2B platforms and fintech marketplaces, is New India evolving its partnership strategy to reach SMEs via these digital ecosystems?
Yes, we are currently trying to, find out every which way that we can engage with SME as a sector, and therefore all the B2B platforms, the fintech platforms, all of them, we are engaging with them. We are trying to see that we partner them, and currently it's on a low key right now at New India, but we are working on it. These are internal company goals to ensure that we make significant progress in this space, and we are able to partner with some of the best fintech companies and bank assurance partners, so that we are able to reach as many SME units as possible, and see that they take advantage of our products and find themselves more sufficiently secure in the ongoing year and ahead.
A little while back, you mentioned about trust in the conversation, and how you mentioned that MSMEs will eventually trust. What do you think is the major factor which keeps them back, which keeps them a step back from taking up such coverages to secure their business? What is the hindrance?
I think most of these SME units or companies, they basically are formed out of very limited resources, wherein they don't have anything extra to spend on insurance, and even if they have, they're worried whether that is going to be well spent and whether it will actually respond at the time of the loss. Secondly, those terms and conditions of policy documentation that earlier was pretty detailed and pretty complicated. So they are normally simple people who get into this business. So for them, understanding this and whether it will respond at the time of a loss possibly was not very convincing. I think the marketing strategies also employed earlier were not really very not effective. So I think with after a lot of research has gone into this, and I think companies now, and New India especially, is doing a lot of work in trying to see that we decipher our products, we sort of explain our products to these customers in the language that they understand, make it as simple as possible. There are also regulatory and interventions that have happened in the recent few months, wherein we have to have a customer information sheet which makes the whole thing extremely simple for the customer to understand what has he to give in terms of premium, and what will he get in terms of claim, at what point he will get, and when will it get triggered, and how much amounts will get triggered, what is payable, what is strictly not payable and all of that. I think with these kind of interventions also the trust level that the customer has in the insurance company goes up. But all said and done, I think it requires a few, I mean, we need to cut the ice, we need to get a few of them on board, we need to see that claims are paid in the least possible time, we need to restore the smile on their faces the shortest possible time, and that's when I think in this sector especially it's word of mouth that really works more than anything else.
Definitely, and you know, the transparency that you spoke of, I think that really makes a lot of difference when they are anyways a bit hesitant to take this up, and I think these kind of initiatives can help them to take that step forward.
Very much.
So, lastly, I want to ask that on the occasion of World MSME Day, what are some of the initiatives being taken by NIA for the MSME ecosystem, and what are the plans ahead for the sector?
Yeah. So actually, SME sector contributes a huge part of our entire ecosystem, business ecosystem, and it has been missing the insurance net for very many years now. And with the government giving the thrust on this sector and the insurance penetration levels being absolutely not moving from 1% for so many years, I think it's high time we look beyond the pie that's already being insured and look at other businesses that have never been insured before. So in line with this understanding, we have declared this year as a year of SME for New India, with a complete thrust on SME businesses. We have geared up all our business units and given them targets to get many of these SME units into the coverage, and in fact we've given targets for businesses that have been never insured before. So there are targets in New India for business never insured before. So that is how we drive it within the company. And I think celebrating one day as an SME day is a very good idea. But I think New India has decided to celebrate the whole year as SME year. We will go after the SME businesses. We will keep trying to see that we create awareness. We try to include as many of them as we can, and the more we do this, we're very, very happy to be part of building a very resilient India that will bounce back very soon at the time of any loss, and will be able to have a smooth journey throughout their business tenure.
I think what can be a better message than that on World MSME Day? It's very encouraging for this sector, which is the backbone of the economy, to know the kind of initiatives being taken, the kind of steps that are being taken to support them and to make them go forward in this process. As you said, every day is World MSME Day for NIA, and I think maybe that's the approach which everyone else can take up as well, and the economy can move forward by giving such support to the sector. Thank you so much, Ms. Subramanian, for joining us today and giving us those key insights. I'm sure they will be of great value to the MSME ecosystem. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Neha. It's been a pleasure talking to you as always.
Thank you.
New India Assurance, a name synonymous with trust and reliability. From humble beginnings to becoming the largest non-life insurance company in India, our journey has been nothing short of remarkable. Embracing technology and innovation, New India Assurance has stayed ahead of the curve, introducing groundbreaking solutions to meet the ever-evolving needs of its customers. At the heart of New India Assurance lies a set of core values. These values have guided us through the decades, earning the trust of millions of policyholders across the nation. Together, we leave a footprint of greatness.
For MSMEs to thrive and flourish, access to finance is the key. This is particularly important in a country like India, where a large number of firms continue to remain outside formal avenues of credit. To talk about how banks can make a difference, the role of technology, and various government schemes that help small businesses and funding, we have Pran Behangabur talking with Sumit Pakka, Deputy Managing Director at IDBI Bank.
यार, इतनी बड़ी एमएनसी से एक्सपोर्ट ऑर्डर मिला है, बस थोड़ी फंडिंग की कमी है।
हम सब दोस्तों ने बड़ी मेहनत से ऐसी गुडविल बनाई है, इस अपॉर्चुनिटी को कैसे जाने दें? कुछ तो सोल्यूशन होगा ना?
है ना, हमेशा साथ देने वाला एक सच्चा दोस्त।
मतलब कि सच्चा दोस्त वही जो हमेशा आपका साथ दे। MSME loans from IDBI Bank. बैंक ऐसा, दोस्त जैसा।
Access to finance has been a perennial issue for MSMEs, with reports suggesting that the credit gap continues to remain wide. While new age financial technology companies hold much promise, fact remains that banks in the country are expected to shoulder much of this financing effort. When it comes to financing and empowering MSMEs, IDBI Bank has been at the forefront. To get a sense of what IDBI Bank is doing, how they are doing it, and the road ahead, we have with us today Mr. Sumit Faga, Deputy Managing Director, IDBI Bank. Good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
Great. So let me come first to the question. If India wants to become a $5 trillion economy, how important is the role of MSMEs in that journey?
The way I look at it, if I were to look at the contribution of MSMEs in the Indian economy, they contribute almost 45% of India's export. They contribute almost, I think, 8 to 10% of India's overall GDP. Almost 110 million jobs are created by them. So their contribution in the overall economy of India is so very important that if India wants to become a 5 trillion economy, and in the long term, as we are looking to become a developed economy by 2047, the MSME's contribution and their role in the economy would continue to be at the center of everything, because they are the ones which are generating maximum jobs. They are the ones which are supporting maximum exports, and they are the ones which are basically going to support the entrepreneurial spirit of the country. So I would consider their role as right into the heart of India's journey towards a 5 trillion economy and ultimately to be a developed country.
Right. How is this lack of credit, affecting the growth and stability of MSMEs across the country?
So basically, what is happening is that there are certain challenges that MSMEs do face when they try to access credit from the banking system. Banks traditionally have been lending to MSMEs based on the collateral that is available. They are looking at the balance sheet funding, and they are also looking at some history that is there for a particular entity. While the fact remains that many of the new age entrepreneurs or the new age MSMEs, they are not in a position to offer collaterals. The balance sheet may not be as strong as are expected by a bank. So that is because of that. What is happening is that basically at times leading to that is that they have got reduced competitiveness and leading for them to continue to remain either a micro enterprise or as a small enterprise rather than gradually growing up to be a slightly medium-sized or even a larger enterprise. So those are the challenges that I see MSMEs basically facing in accessing the bank credit and in their growth
Right.
journeys.
Right. So you've had an extensive background in, the banking sector, and you probably must have seen how, banking and lending has evolved over the years. We all talk about technology and the role that it can play. How do you envision IDBI Bank further leveraging digital platforms? You have something called the iMSME Express. You rely on GST data. How is lending decisions going to become better, and how are you going to serve the underserved enterprises?
So I think you have actually made a mention of iMSME, which we launched only recently. So there, what we are doing is that we are basically leveraging the GST data of the entities, whether they are new to bank or new to credit customers or existing customers of the bank, where we are basically going for an underwriting purely based on their GST data. It's an end-to-end digital solution where the decision making or the decision engine is purely based on what the data is throwing. that is one of the solutions that the bank is working on. Otherwise, also there are certain other areas where we think that we can have more digital solutions coming in, be it in their part of their trade finance journeys, be it in their part of their payment and collection journeys. That is where also we are working that to make sure that we are able to offer as much digital solutions as possible. For as far as this MSME goes, we are very aggressively pushing it. In last couple of months, we have been able to do more than 500 cases. The amount is almost 150 odd crores. It's just the beginning. We are right now doing it's primarily for the micro enterprises from 10 to 25 lakhs requirement. But based on the experience, we are going to scale it up, and maybe by the end of this year, we could be taking it to somewhere around 1 to 2 crores, so that even the small enterprises are also covered under this IMSME Express.
Interesting. So, there are times when MSMEs face difficulties with repayment. When that happens over a prolonged period of time, you need restructuring, you need a rehabilitation process that supports these enterprises. How does IDBI Bank utilize things like predictive analytics and early warning signals to proactively first find distressed MSMEs, then take them through this hand-holding process so that there is timely intervention and you minimize your NPAs?
Yeah, you have rightly touched upon one of the challenges that each MSME faces, which is basically that at times they do go under stresses for reasons beyond their control. Of course, in IDBI Bank, we have got a very well laid down process through which what we call a Sajag, through which we actually monitor the MSME accounts through a system of early warning systems, where any early warning signals are captured. And then we immediately put in place what we call as a corrective action plan. And that corrective action plan could be something like giving them additional funding, restructuring, rehabilitating, maybe extending their repayment schedule. All that is done based on the early warning signals that are thrown by the system. And we have got a very clear-cut delegated authorities for that. So if it's a small or a micro enterprise with a limit up to 10 lakh rupees, the rehabilitation decision is taken at the branch level. Anything above that goes to a committee, which is in line with the regulatory requirements that are there for MSME rehabilitation. It's a very, very well-oiled and well-laid down system, has been working perfectly. What we make sure is that instead of recalling the advance, whether it's a small advance or a large advance, at times finding a rehabilitation solution is a better way in which you can support a unit, and that's what we try to do through our processes that we have put in place.
Right. I was looking at your advances, and it is impressive, and especially the performances under the Mudra scheme. That's very good. Do you have some specific strategies, or you shift to intelligent data that has helped you reach these targets? And what are the kind of impact that you're seeing in the grassroots level, particularly when it comes to micro entrepreneurs?
Yeah, Mudra, we have been doing pretty well over last couple of years. In fact, last year we were able to do almost 101% of our Mudra targets, which has been one of the best performance for the bank over last many years. So the way we are doing it is that we basically focus on small, very small current account holders of ours, or the ones which really do not have any borrowings, but who do have some established history with them, which helps us in taking very quick decision on lending to them. Another way which we are doing is again leveraging our iMSME Plus, where if somebody has got a GST registration and GST data, but he does not have any history of borrowings or any history of defaults, we immediately are able to take decisions on lending to them under Mudra scheme. So these are some of the ways in which we are actually leveraging our own data and also our digital capabilities to make sure that we are able to turn around the mudra or any small value advances as quickly as possible. Interestingly, we have got very robust mudra book, and generally our NPAs is in low single digits there. So the strategies that we put in place and the processes that are put in place are actually helping us in growing the book without any stresses being built into it.
101% of target, low NPA levels. You have a lot of these government schemes and you're doing very well. But how do you ensure impact, on-ground impact, and not just disbursement numbers? How do you ensure these advances or loans that you've given actually translate to sustainable business growth, job creation, and enhanced competitiveness for Indian MSMEs?
You're right. In fact, besides Mudra, also bank has been consistently performing in almost all the government-sponsored schemes, be it the social sector schemes or be it the lending schemes. So generally, what we are trying to do is that, of course, disbursements are important, the business growth numbers are important, but it is very important that we are able to handhold the entrepreneurs in their journey through their growth. So for that, we have dedicated asset officers in almost all the MSME focused branches who guide the entrepreneurs in their journeys, in their banking journey, and as well as in their growth journeys. We consistently get engaged with the government agencies at various levels, at the district level, at the state level, try to find which are the opportunities that are coming up in a particular geography, and try to support those activities in that geography. Another way in which we try to ensure that the impact that we make on for MSMEs goes beyond the lending numbers is by making sure that we try to understand their supply chain, their complete supply chain, whether it's the buyers or the sellers, and where are the frictions where we can actually help them, whether by way of offering a better collection solution or by offering a better payment solutions. So these are some of the ways in which we try to go beyond banking to help the MSME clients of the bank.
Right. Last question then. How do you see IDBI's loan book growth in the uh, last financial year vis-a-vis your peers? And what are your plans and strategies for future growth in the MSME lending segment?
Yeah, so last year, in fact, our growth was about 23 odd percent MSME book growth, which was much better than the industry growth of 13 to 14%. And this year, we are actually targeting a growth of about 25%. So we have certain strategies in place. One of the ways in which we are trying to make sure that we are able to penetrate deeper into the MSME universe is by increasing our number of MSME focused branches. As of now, there are about 100 such branches. So this year, we have decided to increase the number of branches to about 200. We have about 63 odd CSCs, what we call. They are like credit cells, which are dedicated MSME processing cells, which ensure that the turnaround time is maintained, and whatever the requirements of an MSME are quickly answered. Another thing that we are doing is focusing on the industry clusters. We are looking at some of the clusters, trying to address their requirements by identifying that what are the unique needs that particular cluster have, and addressing those unique needs of the cluster. Another thing that we'll continue to have very focused attention on government schemes, be it Mudra, be it PM Vishwakarma, so that not only the medium entities and the small entities, but the micro entities also we support. And the fourth thing is that this digital journey that we have begun, we would like to intensify it. We'd like to scale it up. And most likely, we expect to build a robust book of at least 500 odd crores through digital lending in next 12 to 18 months.
Right. A growth in MSME lending means more money for MSMEs. So I think the small and medium enterprises will take heart in hearing from you that the plans that you have, which includes increasing the number of branches, more proactively looking at government schemes and supporting India's entrepreneurial journey. Thank you so much for speaking to us. It was a real pleasure.
Thanks a lot for having me. And as you rightly say that IDBI Bank, we pride ourselves in being bank aisa dost jaisa. So we would like to be, we consider ourselves as true friends of MSMEs. And thanks for having me once again.
Thank you.
यार इतनी बड़ी एमएनसी से एक्सपोर्ट ऑर्डर मिला है, बस थोड़े फंडिंग की कमी है।
हम सब दोस्तों ने बड़ी मेहनत से ऐसी गुडविल बनाई है, इस अपॉर्चुनिटी को कैसे जाने दें? कुछ तो सोल्यूशन होगा ना?
है ना, हमेशा साथ देने वाला एक सच्चा दोस्त। मतलब
कि सच्चा दोस्त वही जो हमेशा आपका साथ दे। MSME loans from IDBI Bank. बैंक ऐसा, दोस्त जैसा।
Next, we are joined by Dr. Subhranshu Sekhar Acharya, Chairman cum Managing Director of the National Small Industries Corporation, a key institution under the Ministry of MSME, dedicated to promoting and supporting the growth of India's small enterprises. With decades of experience in public sector leadership, Dr. Acharya brings valuable insights into how NSIC is empowering MSMEs through access to credit, marketing support, technology, and skill development. In this conversation, we explore the evolving MSME landscape, NSIC's role in driving inclusive industrial growth, and the strategic priorities shaping the future of small businesses in India.
As the country celebrates World MSME Day, today we are joined by Dr. Subhranshu Sekhar Acharya, the CMD of NSIC. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So first of all, I would like to know from you, NSIC has had a long history. How do you see the MSME sector evolve over the years?
Thank you very much at the outset. Yes, NSIC is an organization which has a 70-year-old legacy, and you can say that it has witnessed India's development journey, India's industrial growth. So if you are talking about the MSME sector, which was earlier the small industry sector, I can sum it up in just two words, that is from Charkha to Chandrayaan. So in the initial days, our focus was rural industries. Even today also the focus is on rural industries. But while we consolidate our base at the rural sector, we have also evolved, our MSME sector has evolved today to in fact be a catalyst in the country's growth in its space missions. So our MSME sector today is truly Agrani, Adhunik and Atmanirbhar. So the MSME sector today stands tall amongst all the sectors for contributing to the India's dream of a Viksit Bharat. Today, if you see that industrial sector is, we are talking about the growth potential of different sectors. The large industry sector has a job potential, but which is limited, which cannot employ the masses. The agriculture sector, of course, it is the largest employment provider, but the MSME sector is one sector that is having tremendous opportunities to provide employment to the masses. If you see that about 15 million people almost come out of our universities, of our colleges every year, and we cannot truly provide the jobs to everyone. So it is the MSME sector which has this potential to actually constructively engage our youth in job providing activities, in value creating activities, and then making everyone add value in our march towards becoming a developed nation.
Sure. NSIC is a nodal agency for key MSME schemes from the Ministry of MSME. So how do you ensure that your schemes remain aligned with the overall national MSME policy goals?
Right. So, as just taking forward what we just spoke in the previous question, see today if we are dreaming about a Viksit Bharat by 2047, we have to ensure that everybody has to add value. Incremental value addition even in the existing activities. So Government of India through its various aspirational schemes, whether It is the PM Vishwakarma Yojana, then PM Swanidhi, and various other aspirational programs is precisely targeting that everybody who is currently doing something adds incremental value, so that the sum total takes India, propels India to a developed nation status. So we are fortunate to be part of many of the government initiatives. We are talking about PM Vishwakarma, it is a very kind of aspirational scheme which envisages to actually bring entrepreneurship to the traditional activities. We have our Shilpakars, Charmakars, we have our goldsmiths, blacksmiths, the traditional activities, but how to add value by making them entrepreneurs. So that is one aspirational scheme, and NSIC is participating that in its own way. Secondly, today is a age of digital marketing. Our MSMEs need to adopt very quickly the digital marketing. Government of India has very recently, launched a program called Trade Enablement and Marketing Scheme, where we are, in the process of onboarding 500,000 MSMEs on the digital market platforms, and 50% of them we are targeting to be women entrepreneurs. So, lot of government programs are happening for the benefit of the MSMEs to help them leverage technology, access market, etc. And NSIC is very proud to be part of many of them.
Okay. NSIC also runs training incubation centers and common facility centers. Please tell us about them. How many such centers are operational today, and what do you want to achieve through those?
Right. See, the problems that MSMEs face is multidimensional. They have tremendous scope. They are contributing humongously to the national development, but at the same time, there are certain issues that, like any other sector, MSME sector also faces. One of those problems is the lack of adequate skilled manpower to man the shop floors of the MSMEs, right? Today, we can possibly, install a machine, but then we do not have skilled hands to run those machines. So, we at NSIC, through our technology centers, are making skilled manpower available to the MSMEs by providing them skills in various modern industrial technologies. That is number one. Then we have incubation centers, as you rightly said. We are talking about enterprise creation, that once enterprise is created, we can develop it. But how we can bring together one mechanism where our youth who are looking to do something are skilled in certain trades of their choice, then they are given some kind of entrepreneurial training, given hand-holding support to approach the banks and link them to the market. So through our this livelihood incubation centers, which we are also calling as enterprise creation labs, what we are doing is we are training them in various trades, making them skilled in any trade of their choice, and then preparing a business plan for them and submitting them to the banks for a credit support. And then after they start producing something, also trying our bit to link them to the market. So that's how we are also, through our incubation centers, creating enterprises.
And related to that, today is the age of Industrial 4.2. Everybody is talking about it. So what kind of modern technologies, labs or technical support are you offering to the MSMEs?
Yes. Through our technology centers, as I said, the technologies which are traditionally used, whether it is a simple lathe machine or a CNC or VNC, we are also providing smart factory solutions, training them in Industrial 4.0, like your 3D printing, the augmented reality, virtual reality, then the solar, installation of solar kind of panels, and the solar pumps, then electric vehicles. So, wide range of mechatronics, robotics, everything, we are trying to impart the training to the, current workforce of the MSMEs, and also creating a pipeline of workforce that can actually graduate it out and then serve our MSMEs better. So, all the modern technologies that is currently in use, including the Industrial 4.0 solutions, are being provided through our technology centers.
As chairman and MD, what will be your top 3 strategic priorities in the next 2-3 years?
See, NSIC is one organization that is actually serving the MSMEs. So, whatever are the challenges that MSMEs face are obviously our priorities. The challenges we face, see, I am not talking about credit here, credit is one of the major challenges, but there are other challenges which NSIC only is catering to. Say, for example, availability of quality raw materials, then the availability of marketing avenues, availability of the skilled manpower that we are actually working tirelessly towards this. Last year we trained about 79 to 80,000 people in our various technology centers and in our incubation centers. This year we are trying to touch 5 figures, and it is not just about numbers, but the intent is whatever are the challenges that comes in the path of growth of our MSMEs, we are trying to help them overcome that. And one such initiative is providing them the right kind of guidance for market linkages, right kind of guidance to get the appropriate raw material, right kind of guidance to adopt the right kind of technology, and the right kind of solution or in terms of provision of skilled manpower to actually manage their shop floors. So all these aspects we are trying to provide solutions, and we will upscale it, and also we will see that they get all these services under one roof, so that they do not have to go to different places. They come under one roof and they get all solutions, including the credit. We are not a bank, but we have tie up with several banks, and we provide the linkages, bank linkages through credit facilitation services through our various branches also. Of course, we support them both in getting the appropriate raw materials at very, very competitive prices, so their price competitiveness is is better, and in terms of technology their product quality is also better, and they have the skilled manforce to actually support their growth plans in terms of being competitive in the marketplace.
And lastly, as the country celebrates World MSME Day today, what will be your message to MSME community in the country?
21st century is going to be India's century. 19th century was of Europe, and 20th century was possibly of the United States, and 21st century, it is our dream that it becomes India's century. And our MSMEs are going to play a pivotal role in helping India to acquire that space, to acquire that leadership, and contribute to the vision of a Viksit Bharat. So it is the MSMEs which are going to be the solid rock foundation for our Viksit Bharat dream, and I am sure today is the day that MSMEs and the organizations serving the MSMEs and the government machinery that serves the MSMEs are again rededicating themselves in the service of the MSMEs. And to the MSMEs, I will say that this is the best time actually to grow and see the next level of kind of a pedestal, touch the next level of growth, because everything, whether in terms of policy, in terms of guidance, in terms of the credit facilities, everything is there, everything is in place. Banks are adopting in the technology in terms of fintech solutions. So till yesterday people were lending on the strength of the balance sheet. Today people are lending on the strength of the cash flows. So technology has completely revolutionized the lending space. So everything is in place, and MSMEs must capitalize this kind of facilities that is available and take themselves to the next level of growth trajectory.
Thanks a lot, sir, for your time.
Thank you so much. Pleasure indeed.
Mr. Ajit Chavan, the additional CEO and Chief Seller Officer at the Government Marketplace, or GEM, joins us next. GEM is a flagship initiative that has transformed public procurement in India. Under his leadership, GEM has expanded its reach, simplified processes, and brought thousands of MSMEs and startups into the fold of government business. In this Q&A with me, we delve into the platform's evolution, its impact on small sellers, the steps being taken to make procurement more transparent, inclusive, and efficient. Hello everyone. On this occasion of World MSME Day, we have with us Mr. Ajit P. Chavan, who is the additional CEO and Chief Seller Officer at Government Marketplace or GEM. In his career spanning over 27 years in the government, Mr. Chavan has worked intensely in the fields of textiles, trade, agriculture, as well as heavy industry sector. He has been serving at GEM since 24 January 2023 and he has been playing a key role in enhancing seller participation as well as driving marketplace dynamics. Since its inception in 2016, GEM has been empowering MSMEs of India, providing them with a transparent and efficient platform for public procurement. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Chavan.
Thank you for having me here.
So I think we can begin with some numbers around GEM. What are your current GMV numbers and orders? And what new sectors or buyer segments do you see as high growth opportunities?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Actually, this is a startup experiment of Government of India. We started with 422 crores in 2016. We've reached 5.43 lakh crores in last financial year, and it's ever growing. So, in terms of GMV, it has really multiplied more than 1,000 times. And we've just about reached, in terms of products and services, which is our current mandate, we've reached about a good amount of inroads into 3 tiers of governments. That is the central government and its organizations, as well as the state governments and the local self-governments.
Alright. So GEM aims to remain inclusive.
Yeah.
With over 10.5 MSc sellers as well as 31.5 thousand startups. But if you look at the total number of MSMEs in the country, the sellers registered are still a small amount. So what steps are being taken to onboard more enterprises?
Well, we are very conscious about the fact that there's a huge number of MSCs available in the market who might be wanting to do business with GEM, and we are not satiated with the numbers that we have. So yes, obviously we are trying to take proactive steps towards onboarding them in terms of aligning with various MSME and MSC organizations and associations. So they are our MOU partners, and we are having regular meetings and workshops with them to ensure that more and more MSCs come on board. And we also have a very good working relationship and collaborations with the Ministry of MSME, where we do combined programs to ensure that not only MSCs but women-led MSCs, SC/ST-led MSCs, startups, Divyanjan and other weavers, artisans, all of them as part of our inclusion mandate are onboarded onto the platform.
Okay. The GEM Sahaya app help proprietors avail loans. Now, how do you assess its impact so far, and what future features can users expect?
GEM Sahai app has been a transformative intervention at GEM. We had done a pilot. We have now rolled out a India scale program. Its official launch is also awaited. The idea is small ticket loans, collateral free for the proprietors currently, and that later on the length and breadth of the program will involve all the sellers on the platform. The endeavor is to give a collateral free short ticket and short duration loan up to 10 lakh within 10 minutes time, preferably at very competitive rates. So the impact would actually be very far reaching when the India Scale program is launched, in terms of empowering the small MSCs to participate in more and more bids onto the platform.
I will follow you up on this. The GEM portal is said to introduce a collateral-free loan facility for registered vendors. So tell us more about that.
So it has actually, the program has been launched earlier in terms of pilot phase, and now we as I said, we are doing a national launch. Formally it will be launched. We are in the process of onboarding as many lending partners as possible. It works on the highest level of fintech architecture. Open 4.0 architecture is what has been envisaged, and more and more lending partners are being onboarded with specific focus also on the banking partners, so that the cost of lending comes down. and more now beneficiaries are being onboarded. So once you have beneficiaries who are willing to take up this program, and when there are lenders who are willing to lend onto the platform, then things should be, it's one step more closer to more empowerment of the micro and small enterprises.
So independent assessment, as well as you told me last time, that nearly 10% of cost savings is there for buyers. So what practices or algorithms does GEM employ to ensure optimal price discovery and competitive bidding?
Well, in terms of basic economics, it is about the seller base. Larger the seller base, more the supply is on the supply side. More competitive is the pricing. So there are studies which say every additional seller in a bid reduces the price by 0.5%. So that's point number one. Then there's a healthy mix of several this is a technology leveraged platform, so a lot of technology has been deployed, a lot of business analytics has been deployed, a lot of AI ML use cases are being deployed to ensure that price discovery is optimal. There are more, it's a democratic place, so more and more sellers from across the country are able to participate, and by virtue of that, and by virtue also of technology in terms of breaking the buyer seller nexus or buyer seller collusion, we are able to provide a very good pricing to our customers, that is our buyers, and very conservative estimates say, documented estimates say that at least 10% saving is accrued to our buyers. So if we are talking about a cumulative GMV of 14 lakh crores, you can just imagine the kind of impact in terms of cost efficiencies that this platform has been able to bring in.
So since listing country of origin became mandatory in 2020, so how has it affected buyer behavior and policy compliance among sellers?
Well, if you are referring to the land border sharing office memorandum of the government, which came into being in 2020, yes, it has definitely helped in terms of propelling the Make in India philosophy of the government. And in terms of sellers, it does mean that seller has to go through a certain amount of scrutiny to ensure that they are in compliance with the land border sharing in terms of control of ownership, or in terms of where the sellers established, sellers incorporated, and we make sure that we have mechanism on the onboarded on the platform where we ensure that this important policy is implemented properly.
So what progress has been made in integrating GEM, with other government procurement systems, and what challenges still remain?
Well, we are moving towards a unified public procurement, largest unified public procurement end-to-end platform. Towards that, we are required to integrate with huge number of databases, huge number of buyer ERPs. Currently, if I'm not mistaken, we have almost 75 integrations, be it integration with the Aadhaar database or the PAN database or MCA database or BIS database, or even ERPs of certain important public sector undertakings. So this is an ongoing work. We continuously endeavor to ensure that more and more of our stakeholders are available to, their data is available to us in a systematic and technology driven way.
With the general financial rules now mandating GEM procurement, how to support government departments in capacity building and digital adoption?
Well, of course, this is an ongoing business. This is an ongoing pitch also for Government of India and its organizations. It's mandated. For states, it's not mandatory. Yet, we have a pitch made to all the states. All the states have signed up MOUs with us. And we've also added the third tier of governments and also added cooperatives as a buyer. And we are continuously, through our engagements with our buyers, we are continuously in touch with them. We've nominated senior level officers who will go into the states. And this year probably we'll have a much extensive outreach with our stakeholders, especially other than the central government organizations.
So GEM has launched green categories in the past, like eco-friendly ACs and bamboo products. So what are your plans to expand the portal's contribution to India's sustainable procurement roadmap?
Well, if you, on a very basic level, if you just imagine the amount of paper or the carbon footprint that we have been able to generate in terms of saving the papers, the entire, we've done what, 72 lakh orders last year. A good number of them are bids, and it has been happening for 8 years. Even if you just count the number of papers that we've saved, it's huge. But we are a serious player in terms of we take our responsibility towards sustainability very seriously, and we are in touch with BEE and MOEF and other standard making bodies where we could introduce more and more sustainable products onto the platform.
So you told me earlier how GEM has integrated AI, ML, and data analytics. So can you share some examples of how these have improved supplier discovery and pricing efficiency on the platform?
So whatever is required for the buyers to make a very informed decision, be it in terms of what has been the price at which the product that product or a similar product that has been transacted on the platform, or what is the price at which in certain cases the price at which this or similar product is available outside of the marketplace, that information has been made available using advanced analytics and AI/ML models onto the platform. So basically, it's a continuous ongoing work. We have come out with a very interactive chatbot where a lot of queries, a lot of resolutions would be done by the chatbot. So this chatbot is available, if I'm not, my memory serving me well, in 10 Indic languages, and the idea is basically to empower the chatbot to make it so good and user friendly that more and more public interfaces with it, be it buyer or seller, and make best use of technology for their day-to-day operations.
How do you envision GEM's role evolving over the next 3 to 5 years, and particularly in achieving deeper market penetration among state governments and local bodies?
So I already mentioned that this year probably our focus would be more on the state outreach. So states is going to be a very important and integral part of our GMV growth business. Of course, CPSEs and central government account for almost a majority of our GMV. So then the next step is the local self-governments. We are trying, a lot of buyers have come in. Then we are also trying to get more and more cooperative buyers. Apart from that, we are trying to see if we can give more modalities of purchase, and then add a rate contract, things which would make our stakeholders easy. Probably, if God willing, if we have, we are also trying to see if we can get works as a mandate on the GEM. So this makes us a little more comprehensive than what we are. So maybe probably 3-5 years down the line, we would emerge as world's largest public procurement platform.
Alright, that was a very insightful session, and we hope to see more and more MSMEs come on this platform and carve their way to public procurement. So thank you so much, Mr. Selvan, for being with us today.
Thank you, Garima, for having me here on this show on the World MSME Day, and I'm very glad to be here to tell you about the inclusion that we do insofar as MSCs is concerned on the public procurement platform.
As global trade becomes increasingly complex, Indian MSMEs, the backbone of our export ecosystem, are navigating a delicate balance between tariff challenges and the opportunities presented by free trade agreements. The next panel discussion explores how MSME exporters are adapting strategies to stay competitive, right from reworking supply chains to pricing models to tapping into government support and trade intelligence.
It has been one of the most dynamic times for global trade, with aspects ranging from signing of FTAs to US tariffs and realignment of supply chains taking place. For India and its diverse MSME ecosystem, this means leveraging the trade pacts in its favor while also protecting its interests amid unpredictable tariff developments that unfold. How can MSME exporters strike the right balance in these times? How can they rise up to the challenges in store? To answer all this and more, we have with us Ajay Srivastava, founder, GTRI, Ajay Sahai, DG and CEO, FIEO, Shaun Ray, Professor, ICRIAR, and Sanjay K. Jain, MD, TT Textiles. Welcome everyone. It's great to have all of you with us here. So, Mr. Sahai, if I can first come to you, to begin with, a lot of developments have taken place in global trade over the last few months. So, for MSMEs, how has the juggling act really been between FTAs and tariffs?
In fact, the last few months have been a quite dynamic churn in global trade, ranging from aggressive free trade agreement negotiation to raising tariff, non-tariff barrier under the umbrella of national security, sustainability, industrial policy. For MSME, navigating through this has been both promising and a little challenging also. We are seeing a complete revisit in India's FTA strategy. Earlier, we have gone for the FTA with the countries who were very strong in manufacturing, be ASEAN, Japan, South Korea, and we landed in a situation where import growth fast outpaced the export growth, and there was huge criticism of the FTAs also. Now we are going for FTA with the countries A, who are the complementary economies, and B, our major exports market. So we have formed up one with UAE, Australia, with UK also we have signed up, which is to be operationalized in next 8 to 12 months time. We are going for the early harvest with Europe. We are also negotiating with Chile, Peru, Oman, and many other countries also. So while on the one hand, it is providing market access, reduced duties, but at the same time, the MSME has to have the bandwidth to decode roof of origin required documentation, sectoral exclusion also. So I will say that in short, it is providing opportunity, but of course the challenges at the same time. On the other hand, we are seeing rising non-trade barriers. EU is coming with a lot of regulation impacting environment and labor. We are seeing carbon border adjustment mechanism come in place. EUDR is expected to operationalize, so is the ESPR. And probably MSMEs are not well equipped as of now to handle with these non-trade barriers. So while FTA will definitely provide the opportunity, to what extent we will be able to encash on the FTA will depend the MSME's capability to deal with these non-trade issues. And I personally feel that this is a time where we need to provide some support, some hand-holding to MSMEs beside sensitizing the SMSE, because on their own, they may not be able to navigate through this complex path. Government has to come forward. The good thing is that government is looking into providing some kind of support to meet the compliance requirement, which amongst other will include traceability also. And government is looking into providing some kind of financial support, particularly to the MSME. And probably for them, there will be a larger support which will be available, and to the other exporters also. To some extent, government will be mitigating the compliance cost.
Okay. And okay, so it is like a fine balancing act which they have to really look at and evolve in this environment. Mr. Srivastava, if I can come to you, you have earlier, in fact, stated how merely lowering tariffs and signing FTAs without improving the business environment will alone not be of help. So, what should really be the way forward for India to benefit from new trade opportunities?
Let's understand if we lower tariff and do not improve our internal environment or competitiveness, what happens? Suppose my cost of making things in India is 15% more than that of, say, Vietnam, and we lower the tariffs from 20% to zero, then immediately we'll be opening ourselves to the import surge, where forget about the exports, even our domestic manufacturing units will be wiped out. So we say tariffs are bad, but they serve a purpose. As long as we are not very efficient, they serve to protect these inefficient units. So the first focus should be ease of doing business, should be enhancing competitiveness, right choice of products. So all these things are not discussed adequately. We discuss more about the FTAs, tariff reduction, those things. But this internal renewal of the MNCs of the MSMEs is very important. We see MSMEs flourishing, say in Thailand or Vietnam, because MSMEs they are acting basically as ancillary supplier to a large MNC which is exporting to whole of the world. So they are not making the full product. They are making a small nut or bolt or a small part of that. So that way they are aligned. So they are not directly exporting. They are supplying their goods to a bigger firm which is exporting through the integration global value chain. Here it started happening. For example, we say the top example is say iPhone. So iPhone, basically most of the inputs are imported. MSMEs are still not participating, but we feel that in 5 to 10 years, smaller parts will be made by Indian MSMEs, and then they'll be gradually integrating into the system. So if we talk about improving the environment, I say it's very important. For example, I'll give you a latest example. 3 days back, Minister of Steel, they passed an order that even the steel inputs. Suppose I am buying steel rods from Vietnam, so the Vietnamese firm which is supplying steel rods has to be BIS registered. It's fine, but they are saying the Vietnamese firm, if they are buying inputs from say a Malaysian firm, they should also be registered with BIS. And the time given is just 3 days. So people have made the have placed the orders, invested crores of rupees. All those will go waste. So we should be more careful in passing such rules. They are a shame on our ease of India in any initiative. Those things we should be more careful.
Right, definitely. Ease of business plays a very important role, and especially when it comes to MSMEs who are already swamped with so many things in the line of business. Shan, if I can come to you, and we spoke a bit about FTAs. Uh, it's well known that India has not gained much from FTAs as it would have hoped. So, in order for India to gain, how important a role does improving market access in both goods and services play, in your view?
Right. It has been said that we have not actually gained from FTAs, but that is only if you look at the goods part of it, because normally our tariffs are higher with the signing countries. So when we lower our tariffs, as has been explained, we do lose out. Two things to address in the goods context is that we have to address the non-tariff barriers, because without addressing it, we are not getting a proper market access. And also we have to be careful about particularly our tariffs on intermediates, because that again becomes a sort of a disadvantage for us vis-a-vis competing with other countries like the ASEAN countries. Now, the other thing is that, so if we want to look at the FTAs holistically, we have to actually look at, have we gained in the services sector? Have we gained in terms of investment? Have we attracted technology through those investments? All of that. So from the narrow point of view, only looking at the goods sector, maybe we have not gained. But if we look at the broader picture, maybe we have in some cases gained. The main thing as far as FTAs is concerned is that we have to have a very comprehensive agreement. Nowadays, all of these, the FTAs are going beyond the so-called Singapore issues also. So in that sense, as Dr. Sahai also mentioned, our approach towards FTAs has changed, and we are actually looking at them slightly more holistically. I have been arguing that we actually need to have a value chain approach as far as our FTAs is concerned, because the thing is that we look at one part of a good, maybe the intermediates or the final good, but we are not looking at the entire chain, and that is why we end up sometimes losing. As far as services is concerned, our competitiveness is actually in a very narrow range of services. We need to actually become more competitive, and that is also happening in slightly in more categories of services that we can then export. So, for example, financial service, fintech, etc. These things we are becoming really more competitive in that, and we hope to go beyond the only IT and ITES to these kinds of services. And so the things that need to be done, and some of them actually is already in place, particularly important for MSMEs is that certification and standards, because these new kinds of FTAs would require all of that. Export infrastructure and logistics, we have the PM Gati Shakti in place, and many other things are being done as far as our logistics improvement. MSMEs would need access to affordable credit. And this is a point that has been emphasized often enough, but sometimes the point that is being missed is that it has to be targeted toward the export intensive sectors, maybe not all sectors. And probably a cluster based approach towards FTAs can also help. The other thing is that nowadays the FTAs have to go beyond our looking at typically the goods and services, because strategic reasons have also become very important. So, for example, we want critical minerals from certain countries. So, does it then make sense to go beyond the narrow approach that we have had and look at these emerging issues as well? Access to technology, access to critical minerals, all of these things become very important in our approach to FTAs.
Right, and as you said, it's about preparedness as well, and making MSMEs aware of these kind of new things which are coming on board, certifications, as you mentioned. I want to come to Sanjay at this point and speak a bit from a sector point of view, which is textiles. Sanjay, the textile industry, of course, welcomed the India-UK FTA, which is expected to help the textile sector go from strength to strength. So, keeping the textile sector as an example, do you think this will lead to more export diversification by players in the context of tariff uncertainties?
Basically, textiles, as you know, is more or less is MSME dominated, especially in the apparel and garment space, where we are looking forward to pushing exports. Of course, in yarn, of course, most of them are large players. UK, of course, is welcome, and as Dr. Sai said, it's still going to take 8 to 10 months. More important than that, where I see an opportunity is the US differential tariff. China does about 25% of US apparel imports. So that is $30 billion, while India's total garment exports is about $16 to $17 billion. So there's a huge opportunity to grow in US, which is the largest single apparel market for Indian MSMEs, because US being a big market, you have all profile of customers, not only the large ones, the retail chains, but a lot of smaller importers, where the rules and regulations are not as hard. Certifications are not as difficult for an Indian exporter to meet, especially the MSME sector. And with the government expanding the definition of MSME sector, I would say the typical mindset of what we have of an MSME now actually is an SME enterprise. A medium scale enterprise is well within capable of taking on the best in the world, especially in apparels, because it's not a capital intensive industry. It's a labor intensive industry where the skills of an MSME promoter are very critical in developing and running the company. So diversification, India has always been trying, because we never had the developed countries advantage, which are EU or UK. It was with Bangladesh, Vietnam. But the way China has diversified, they practically sell all across the world. Indians, unfortunately, have not been as with so much of dare. And one big problem which Indian textile industry has, and especially it goes for the MSME sector, is we don't have internationally competitive raw materials. Unlike a Bangladesh and a Vietnam, which we normally talk of, the smaller players like Cambodia, they have access to raw materials from wherever they want. We all know China has the cheapest raw material base, especially when it comes to man-made fibers, polyester and viscose. The world's consumption is going on polyester and viscose, while we in India sitting have a 20 to 25% raw material disadvantage due to import duties and QCOs. So we are not having access to the right raw material. So if India really, the MSME sector really needs to boom up, boomerang, and take up a larger scale as promise is there, we really need the government to re-examine its raw material policies and give the country access, because the MSMEs specifically do not have the wherewithal of buying under advanced license raw material and re-exporting. They cannot plan so much. They don't have such customers who give them long-term planning. So it's very important the government tweaks the policies to give access sitting at their doorstep at competitive raw material prices. And if this is done, along with this FT of UK, the EU thing coming, and differential tariff in USA, I think so you're going to see a 20 to 25% growth rate in the apparel exports over the next decade, which has been zero. I repeat, zero in the last 10 years.
Right. So I think it has been a shot in the arm for the textile sector, the FTA, but still a lot of scope there to elevate it further. On a similar note, I want to come to Mr. Sahai, and we heard some of Sanjay's views about export diversification in the textile sector. Now, India has an export projection of $1 trillion for FY26. So, syncing up with what Sanjay has also said, what are some of the strategies that can enhance export performance in an uncertain trade landscape?
In fact, I think we have to encash the opportunities which are being offered by the free trade agreement. Let us also look into that China Plus One policy has definitely benefited Indian companies both in terms of trade as well as investment. Recalibration of the global value chain is on the card, and probably India is set to play a very important role. We have to integrate ourselves in the global value chain to get the benefit. We are constructively engaged with one of our major partner, US, and we are hoping that government will be able to work out on the PTA at least in some limited way before the tariff disadvantage flows to number of countries in terms of the reciprocal tariff. Because we feel that at the end of the day, India is set to be gained from the tariff war if we create capacities. And we are also conscious of the fact that in many of the sectors, capacities will not be just created because of the tariff advantage, because they are not here to stay for pretty long time. But in some of the sectors where probably the optimum utilization of the capacities is not there, tariff war will provide us that opportunity. In number of segment of exports, we are likely to gain a lot. Pharmaceutical and the health product, particularly the generics and API, will be providing us much more opportunity. Specialty chemicals intermediate will be one such product. We also like to gain much in apparel and home textile also. Engineering good, particularly in the low carbon products, we are set to gain. Probably when we are looking into the US, Section 232 will be a challenge for us, and therefore steel, aluminum, and a lot of engineering goods having a steel and aluminum component will face a challenge. What we have been given to understand that probably these products which are subject to special tariff are not being discussed under the PTA. If that is there, probably the high duty will impact us. We will see some of the challenge to some of the our labor intensive sectors also, because wage arbitrage is no longer with India. Traceability, labor compliance are also some of the challenge. I personally feel that we have to look into a kind of hub and spoke model where we can invite large companies to set up base in India, and then, as told by Ajay, we develop ancillaries around them. I'm keeping my hope on some of the large mega industrial parks which are in the pipeline, because this is the time where you have to provide them the plug and play facility, not only for the global customer who are looking towards India, but even for the Indian MSMEs perspective, because as per our own estimate, roughly 70 to 80% of the capital is being invested by MSMEs in purchase of the land and construction of the building. If state-of-art factories are available, probably to a large extent they will be investing in technology and probably in the augmentation of production. So while I agree that this is also an opportunity for us, but probably MSMEs needs to be provided some kind of support, particularly with regard to flow of credit and the cost of credit. Flow of credit is extremely important because our studies have shown that over a period of time, export credit has not kept pace with the export growth, and the mismatch is increasing. Technically, export is under the priority sector lending, but since there is no sub-target for export sector, we have seen sharp decline in the export credit also, despite being under the priority sector lending.
Right. So a number of things which are needed to facilitate credit and to also to focus on the present strengths, which can help to enhance exports at this time. In fact, in terms of global integration, MSMEs have lagged behind international counterparts like Vietnam and Thailand. And Mr. Srivastava, I want to come to you on this, that this has particularly been due to underutilization of FTAs and limited awareness about export opportunities. So, how can such limitations be addressed to elevate MSMEs at this crucial juncture?
First, I do not agree that there is a limited utilization of the FTAs by Indian firms. This is being talked about for some time, but my take is that many countries with which we have FTA, they already have zero tariffs on large number of products we export to them. For example, Singapore has zero tariff on everything except beer and cigarettes. So our exports to Singapore are, say, $12 billion. Beer and cigarette are just $20 million. So our export that will be going through India-Singapore FTA or India-ASEAN FTA will be just $20 million, not the $12 billion. So utilization of this FTA in terms of 20 million versus 12 billion will be less than 1%. Singapore is almost 100%, 0%. Malaysia is 90%, 0% already. So less than 10% of the Indian exports, they really gain from the FTA. So because most of the countries, developed countries especially, they already have zero MFN tariffs. So Indian exporters exporting those things, they don't get any additional advantage through the FTA. The same applies to Japan also. And this thing will steer us when we are negotiating the FTAs with say UK and US or EU. For example, the recently concluded FTA with UK, about 55% of our exports, they already enter without the FTA at zero tariffs in UK. They will not gain from this. US is almost a similar figure is there. EU, a similar figure is there. So we don't take this into account. That's why we feel that FTA utilization is very less. Of course, there's always chance that some people they can get some advantage. They are not applying, but number of such people is very less. Industry, even though personally an MSME owner may not be aware, but industry through associations, through consultants, the word reaches that if you are exporting to UK, this much benefit is there. So while there is a need for of course, some hand-holding, I don't agree basically that utilization is less. Utilization is less, of course, because there is no benefit from the FTA because their products were already going at zero tariffs. So we say that proposition doesn't hold. I'll stop here.
All right, Sharon, I want to come to you now, and we want to talk about a bit. We should talk a bit about global value chains. India presents a unique example by showcasing high potential in manufacturing capability, but very low integration in GVCs. How can this gap be bridged?
Right. Let's look at basically what have been the key barriers for our low GVC integration. Firstly, our focus on domestic market. We have not focused on the export market till recently that much. Then there are the tariffs that other people have also talked about, but particularly important in the context of GVCs is the high tariff on intermediate goods, because that increases your cost of production and it becomes it makes you uncompetitive. It also leads to an inverted duty structure. Then there are things like low R&D. Compared to our global peers, we have one of the lowest R&D in the world. And then there are the other usual things that have been talked about in the past, infrastructure bottlenecks, ease of turnaround time at ports, all those kinds of things. So what we need to do, and some of these things have already are in the works, they've been done, trade policy reform, of course, and that has been addressed, are being addressed. Infrastructure, PM Gati Shakti is in the works, logistics modernization is happening, turnaround at ports is improving. Sometimes the other problems that we face is that suppose there are, certain things need to be tested, but the testing facility is not there in that specific port, it has to be sent somewhere else. and that delays, the clearance at when you're importing. Those kinds of things make a difference. And then, of course, there are the other kinds of things, skill development and innovation. Innovation, of course, has to be stressed across all sectors. We need definitely more R&D, more innovation, and development of skills for, appropriating some of that technology and moving up the value chain. Specifically for MSMEs, we need certain MSME-oriented schemes targeted towards GVC integration, because what we have had in the past is that we have had schemes for MSMEs, but the two have not been brought together. And I'm sure Mr. Jain can give more examples of that. Also, the other thing that I've also talked about in the past is that lead firms, the thing is that we don't have too many lead firms, or the integration of lead firms with other regional value chains or global value chains is missing. So in that context, we need more JVs, joint ventures, we need more technical cooperation, we need more partnerships. And all of this then can help, MSMEs, particularly through information sharing, through, other kinds of help, integrate into global value chains.
Right, as you said, R&D and innovation, they are, practically the pillars on which really change can happen and help in deeper integration of MSMEs into these GVCs. Right, so some points definitely to consider on that. And Sanjay, I want to now come back to you. And earlier in the conversation, Shaun has also alluded to cluster formation. And if we talk about textiles, there are some significant clusters in India, such as Tirupur, which excels in knitwear exports. So, but as is also known, nations such as Bangladesh and Vietnam have marched ahead due to their government-friendly policies in this sector. So now with the FTA in place and a trade agreement also with US being negotiated, do you see prospects of brighter times ahead for the sector?
Certainly, as I said earlier, I think so. This is one of the brightest moments and the biggest opportunity for India, and we cannot afford to miss this. The multi-fiber agreement in 2005, we could not take advantage. China took after that Bangladesh, Vietnam, due to their GSP advantages, preferential access. Now India has finally got an opportunity where the garment and apparel markets lie. They're not going to markets which are competing with them, like Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, but to markets which are only a buyer. So I think so any FTA for textiles and apparels is 100% beneficial. And however, we need to see and ensure that we develop that scale, we develop those production capabilities that we can take advantage. Otherwise, what happened earlier, there was a great opportunity, but someone passed us on the highway and we were left behind. And for the last 10 years, we've been struggling a decade. And another problem which India has, we have a huge domestic market. So as a manufacturer, the stress and the push to export and excel in exports is not so high, because they always have a backup to sell in the domestic market, which is also growing at a decent rate as the country progresses. But UK, Australia, UAE, Japan, of course, we have an FTA earlier, but we were not capable enough to seize it. And USA, and I am emphasizing USA much more because you don't need any FTA to conclude, to operationalize. The tariffs are there. We don't know what's going to happen on July 10th, but I would safely bet that we would have an advantage over China, which is good enough for us. I would say MSMEs have to, garments does not need too much of investment. A 50 or 100 crore investment is good enough to get you starting to be a decent size exporter. So that's not very capital, which is the big problem with MSME. However, unless the government tweaks and gives us raw material access, and Dr. Sai is here, so I'm emphasizing, I'm sure he's listening. We need to ensure that we have free access for exports. Easy access, not only free, but it has to be convenient. So the MSMEs can let them get raw material from wherever it's available, so that we value add and give maximum employment. And mind you, garments and MSMEs give maximum employment to women, which is another very important thing for inclusive growth. I don't think so any other industry, and we're in no tearing hurry to become automated or get into robotics the way some of the larger auto companies, etc., are getting into it, which are going to be big with very less employment. However, if we don't have our costings right, no one in India is going to invest because they know even if you invest, you're not going to be competitive. Even a 10% advantage doesn't help if you have a 20% disadvantage. So if we get the raw material base right, uh, and we don't ask much from the government. All state governments are giving very good incentives to MSME. Interest rates have come down. There are other exemptions for MSME from the banking and finance world. I think we are all set to fly. And this is an opportunity. If we miss out, it will be very, very unfortunate for all of us.
Right, definitely. I think it is an opportunity to encash on and to really leverage. Mr. Sai, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, in fact, I completely agree with Mr. Jam. We have to provide access to the raw material, and our policy has been that, as in the case of tariff, we follow a principle. We put the finished goods at the highest, then intermediate, then raw material. Same policy should be followed for the QCO. First, we should apply QCO on the finished product, then intermediate, then raw material. In fact, in number of cases, we have seen reversal of the policy, which has created problem for the industry, which requires some of these inputs to meet the competitiveness.
Right, and any thought on how MSMEs can strategize smartly in such a scenario when all these factors are at play?
In fact, I agree that MSMEs are at a crossroad, disruption, but massive opportunity. We are seeing that geopolitical tension is there. We have problem of the Red Sea. We have problem of the shipping. We are seeing the rising non-tariff barrier. There are issues with the reciprocal tariff, high tariff, safeguard duty, but at the same time, we have the opportunities also. One particular segment where we have to now look into leveraging the opportunities is the e-commerce. Look at that today, all the Chinese goods in US are subject to 54% tariff, and each product now is assessed at $200. China is in the process of losing around 90 to $95 billion e-commerce market in US alone. We have to, there are a lot of, I think, structural issues which are required, but probably there are a lot of procedural issues needs to be addressed. We are talking about the e-commerce. It has come as a chapter in the foreign trade policy of 2023. We talked about the e-commerce export hub. We are roughly 2.5 years in the policy. None of them have emerged so far on the ground. So probably the speed has to be pushed. And if we want to leverage these opportunity, I agree with Mr. Jan. Opportunity will not keep on knocking on a door time and again.
May I add something, Neha?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Just to give you an example on e-commerce, there are two Chinese companies, Shein and Temu, who have just in 5 to 7 years reached a turnover equal to Zara, who we all know is the leader in global, about $30 billion plus, just on e-commerce by bypassing the duty requirement, which was below, which had a threshold limit. So through e-commerce, they could send to US without attracting any import duty. Of course, now US has plugged it. And as Dr. Sai said, there's a huge opportunity begging and waiting for us where Indians can enter. But we need to create an highway because e-commerce is something smaller players really don't have any infrastructure. We need to give them that platform on which they can sell to US. And you're going to be not only helping the large and the medium guys, the very micro guys can also benefit out of e-commerce because there are platforms available, they can catalog and they can sell.
Right, definitely. That is something for them to take note of and step up at this time. Mr. Srivastava, we've heard Mr. Sahai saying about how it is an opportunity which must be leveraged at this time, and the time is now. But do you think, in terms of future trade negotiations, there should also be MSME specific safeguard clauses that need to be incorporated for them to get a better understanding and as well as of the tariff schedules and compliance requirements?
No, I think that will not help the MSMEs. We have to understand what an FTA contains. So it contains majorly, it mentions the products on which a country, how much the tariff elimination or reduction has been offered by a country. For example, garment is there, whether India has offered garment from the US to be coming at zero tariffs or 5% tariffs or the full tariffs. That's what is there. Now, the garment be imported by a large firm or the small firm or the e-commerce player, the tariff remains the same. So here MSME distinction cannot be made. It's impractical. Why this is being talked in many of the FTAs propagated by the Western countries, especially the European Union, they want many safeguards for the MSMEs, but the idea for them, the basic idea is not to afford any relief on the MSME. They want MSME through identification of the products they deal in. For example, garments, labor intensive products, handicrafts, leather, shoes, all these things. So they want these products are being manufactured by MSMEs. So tariff across the world should be zero. And these products are made by the developing countries like India, not by them. And that's the basic reason they are hiding behind the concept of MSME to talk about these goods. But the real reason we have studied in detail and discussed in detail is that by using the word MSME, they want to focus on the products made by MSME, that is the products made by developing countries mostly, and they want zero tariff for them. So that's the simple politics of it. So I don't agree with this.
Okay, all right. Shaman, I want to come to you now. There are talks of multiple FTAs being in the works. How do you feel this will augur for the MSME sector? And you mentioned a bit in the past about certifications and awareness, but presently, is the industry prepped adequately to take on the opportunities and challenges that will come?
Right. In fact, some FTAs in recent times have had specific MSME chapters. The CPTPP or the CETA they have had. But more than that, I think what we need is that the preparedness of MSMEs to tackle the challenges before we actually get into, MSME specific chapters. So one thing that is very important is basically the kind of support that MSMEs require. So information. And there are provisions even within the WTO on access to information for MSMEs and other kinds of key support that MSMEs might require. For example, and that could be through cooperation, capacity building, it could be through trade facilitation, it could be, we've talked about e-commerce, but then also what about digital trade? That is something that can be looked at. And other contentious issues like government procurement, but though that is part of the agreement that we have signed with the UK. In terms of preparedness for the MSMEs, I think what is required is, apart from the certification and standards, access to affordable credit I mentioned. And also other kinds of, basically the most important thing is access to information, help in building up networks, because ultimately trade will happen through these, either through the regional value chains or through the global value chains, and their access to the networks might help. And the role of, trade organizations is paramount in that case.
Right, and I think all this is what will help them to, lift up their stature when more FTAs are signed on, and they can take advantage as per their preparedness, as per all these measures that you have said.
Right.
Right. Sanjay, coming to you, and if we talk a little bit about the global examples, what lessons can MSME exporters in the textile industry take from global peers who have leveraged FTAs more successfully?
They need to understand the domestic market and the export markets are totally two different things. You need to be more committed, more time bound. You need to have the right certifications, a lot of discipline in execution, a lot of systems are needed. But this necessarily doesn't mean high cost, which most MSMEs feel. If I add so many things, my cost will go up. Actually, to the contrary, I feel it will initially look as a high cost thing, but actually your costs will go down, your wastages will reduce. So that's a mindset which MSMEs need to build up. When Bangladesh can do it, I have traveled to Bangladesh for the last 30 years. People doing business in single story, one floor offices and factories today have 15-story factories. They didn't have land, so they grew vertically, and they've created the best of systems. So we have better education, better literacy, better skilling, even better entrepreneurial and managerial skills. We just need to bring them together and have the right mindset and attitude. I think so. If you have that, that's the most important thing to learn. The balance as the ecosystem unfolds, we are ready to take advantage of it. One more thing, it's not related to your question, but I think so. It's very important. I don't know who would do it. Any incentives promised to MSMEs has to be time bound and come, because liquidity is a big thing for MSMEs. They are always above the water is above the head, and for some reason or the other, we make things so complicated and we find such absurd reasons to stop their payments that instead of rising, they sort of get stuck, and they tie themselves up in knots, and finally all the good work done goes down the drain. Thank you.
Right. Mr. Srivastava, I want to ask you about, US being India's largest trade partner for the fourth year in FY25. So, as India looks to strengthen its economic position globally, how can partnerships with countries like US and UK prove significant?
So, as you rightly said, they are our top trading partners, and we have a great trade surplus with them, about $45 billion. So even without doing anything, we are doing very fine with them. And so we are currently negotiating FTA to increase the bilateral trade. I only want to say that we should agree to the FTA terms which are balanced. We should not give more to them than what they give to us. So what we are hearing is that while the US is wanting us to cut our MFN tariffs, they are in no position to cut their MFN tariff. All they want is to drop some part of their country-specific tariffs. So this will be unequal WTO, not compatible. So I only say Indian negotiators should take care of this and come out with a balanced agreement. Else we should leave it.
Okay. All right. This brings me to the last question, and I want to address that to Mr. Sahai. Mr. Sahai, we've heard a lot of views on things which are going on currently, on what needs to be done, what is being done, and about the prospects that lie ahead for MSME sector and for the Indian economy. I want to ask you as a summary that, how would you really sum up the present time for MSME exporters? Is it a time for opportunity or threat?
I think the tide is turning for the MSME, but this is not the time for them to retreat. This is the time to rethink, reorient, and probably retool their strategy. The opportunity is waiting for them to encash.
Right. Any words from Shayon, you on that?
No, I agree that it is an opportunity, and MSMEs and other firms must take advantage of the opportunities. But we must also increase our competitiveness. Maybe not in the short run, but in the long run, definitely.
Right, and I think as Sanjay also said, like textiles, there would be some other sectors as well which can definitely capitalize on the opportunities that lie at this point in time. Sanjay, final words from you as well on this.
Well, as I said, reiterating, MSMEs are not the micro and small guys which we have a typical mindset. Today, with a limit of 500 CR, you can have really organized players in this segment to move ahead. And any labor intensive industry, India has an arbitrage, an advantage, which we can leverage along with having much better banking, finance, and organized ecosystem than some of the other countries who have similar labor wages, or maybe probably a bit lower. But one important thing is our labor productivity is one of the lowest in the world, and we have a lot of disguised unemployment. Today, if you ask any manufacturer, one of his problems is availability of consistent workforce. They work 4 days and then they go on leave for 2 days. There's a festival, they go away. So we need to skill and increase productivity, and we also need to change our labor laws, which are archaic. No labor wants to work for less than 11 to 12 hours because he's not able to earn enough. But our labor laws are such that they restrict you from working, uh, and you have to pay double the fare after 8 hours, the rate, which is not viable. So I think so for MSMEs, at least labor laws need to be relaxed a bit considering the way they are organized, and skilling needs to be organized with a much more effective output. We have a lot of skilling going on, but the output is not what is required. It's a lot of programs, but not the desired effect. So I know it's difficult, but that's the truth of us. But if anyone can do it, it is India, no one else. Thank you.
Right. I think there's a lot in store, for MSMEs to take note of, and things related to ease of doing business, R&D, innovation, digital trade, and a lot of other opportunities can come by if these things are addressed, and they can go to the next level as far as competitiveness is concerned. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving us those insights. It was great to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Artificial intelligence is no longer a distant future. It's reshaping how businesses operate today. For Indian MSMEs, this presents both an opportunity and a challenge. In the next panel discussion, we will explore how Indian MSMEs are approaching AI, from early adopters driving innovation to others cautiously experimenting.
The transformative power of AI lies in its ability to automate tasks, decode complex data, and make predictions with accuracy for MSMEs. For India's 63 million small and medium enterprises, this can be a game changer in enhancing efficiency and succeeding as businesses in the digital era. But how can MSMEs navigate the AI challenges which spring up in the form of financial constraints, technical know how, or even the lack of an agile mindset? To answer these questions, we have with us today Kapil Bardeja, CEO, Behant Technologies, Hemendra Mathur, co-founder, ThinkAct, Puneet Thakkar, CEO and MD, Shivami, and T. Sankara Subramanian, partner and COO, Digital Platforms, KPMG. Welcome everyone to this panel, and thanks a lot for joining us today.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you.
So let me just begin straight to it. Let me first come to Puneet. Puneet, first of all, we should address the main question and the basic question, that where should an MSME really start in their AI journey, and how should they go about it?
So the way I look at it is that, be it AI or any other technology, any business, be it MSME, be it enterprise, should look at the pain areas, right? What pain they are having and what kind of solution are they looking at? Let's simplify it, that assuming a scenario that you have some repetitive task you want to get rid of, right? That saves you cost. AI is the answer for that question. So MSME should look at, identifying the pain area first, then identify the solutions which AI can offer, right? And then start adopting it. Align it with the business goals, right? So sometimes business goal is saving, sometimes business goal is looking forward, taking the enterprise to next level, sometimes being digital forwardness of the business, right? So MSME should always look at, technology as a tool where they can take the help and make sure that their pains are solved, the problems are solved.
Right, so aligning with business goals to know what really syncs up for them in terms of decision making and as enterprises. Sankara, I want to come to you at this point, and we heard from Puneet on where should an MSME start. But as per estimates, AI adoption in manufacturing is 35 to 40%, with strong growth, say, in countries such as China, Germany, and the US, while India is lagging at just 15% among MSMEs. Why do you think that is the case, and how can it be scaled up?
Yeah, that's right, Neha. So there's really a huge scope for us, to ride on the AI wave, right? I think the time is now. It's not no more a necessity, but it's a question of survival for us to adopt AI, right? And the disruptions AI has brought in the last 2, 3 years is super visible to see, and it's exponentially growing on a daily basis. So certainly the MSMEs cannot stay away from this way, and they should start using it to their advantage, right? So clearly some of the challenges they may face today, one is there is a perception that it's super expensive, right? And it may not be cut for smaller business. Second is lack of underlying data processes that are not digital. It's very fragmented. So where do we use AI, right? So there could be several areas that are maybe resulting in hesitation or reduced enthusiasm in embracing AI. But I do believe, they can start. They don't have to completely stay away or stay slower compared to their peers. So clearly, they can look at, like Puneet mentioned, very clear business problems and pointed use cases, right? Why we don't want to look at the enterprise-wide transformation? Can I look at my customer service to start with? Can I look at my inventory management to start with? So there are very clear use cases that they can pick up, point use cases, right? And they can also, for example, many of them are on, even most of the OEMs are coming with embedded AI, right? Like if you're on Microsoft, for example, there's a Copilot. So similarly, other OEMs have that, right? So how can you embrace and adopt the features available in the products we are already using, right? And things like that. So most of the CRMs today, ERPs today are all coming up with AI features. I'm sure the MSMEs using these applications can see how they can start using some of those better, right? So clearly, pick the use cases and then eventually scale, adopt the AI applications that you may be already using. Also piggyback with your value chain, right? The larger organizations they work with, their adoptions, the systems they're opening up for their value chain, right? Which that is one thing, and work closely with startups. The Indian startups are very hungry. They want to prove value of all their innovation, and certainly MSMEs can give them the chance to prove value of their own innovation, right? These are some areas I think they can actively embrace on.
Right, and as you said, like looking at interesting use cases and scaling up by and by. I want to ask Kapil now. You are into the surveillance sector, and a lot of your professionals also use AI, ML based security. So, what kind of growth in applications of AI do you see among SMEs in India? I mean, you must have seen it in your sector as well as some of the other sectors that you would have seen it in.
So majority of the AI in surveillance is primarily targeted towards government applications, whether it is traffic enforcement or smart city or safe city. But the enterprise gradually we see are adopting AI for their safety compliances. So a lot of, let's say, oil and gas companies or manufacturing companies who essentially have the CCTV network, but they don't have the intelligence in that, are gradually adopting AI solutions to do safety compliances for, let's say, the jacket or helmet or safety goggles detection, which essentially was done by a human earlier. And of course, it was not a reliable way. So we see a lot of adoption there on the safety compliances. On the security side, also, we see that people are now moving from passive CCTV cameras to more kind of predictive and real-time AI solutions, where they get an alarm if there is a certain pre-configured event which they have done. So that's something which we are gradually seeing. It's not massively penetrated yet, so there is a lot of adoption challenges which we feel. there are legacy systems, there is a lack of knowledge. Also, the need for a particular thing because the human cost is lower still in India, right? So that are some challenges of adoption of AI which we see in the SME sector. Having said that, government of course is a major buyer of our kind of safety or traffic or those kind of AI solutions. But SME are gradually getting into it. Yeah.
Right. And of course, in any case, surveillance is still a pretty nascent category, and so is AI for MSME sector. So I think it will take some time for them to decode it all, as you said. Um, on that note, I want to bring in Hemendra, and we heard what Kapil said about surveillance sector and the kind of tech that is being used. A lot of such interesting things are also happening in the agricultural domain, where a lot of AI tools have come up. So, how is this helping to revolutionize the agriculture sector, and how can other sectors take a cue?
Thanks, Neha. So, as we speak, the Indian agricultural supply chain is going through a digital disruption. And I always say that agriculture is a heaven for data scientists because there's so many variables, from raw material to climate to, availability of water and other natural resources. And that's where I'm seeing some fantastic application of AI, right? So I'll give you two, three examples. So let's say, we every year we do estimation of how much area under a given crop. Government uses this data, private sector uses the data. It was all manual. But as we speak, there are a lot of remote sensing application. You can capture crop classification from the space using satellite imagery, build AI tools to classify which crop is grown in which part of the country. You can even capture the sowing progression, the harvest progression, and even yield estimates using AI tools. And a lot of state governments have already adopted it. UP government has built India's first crop stack, capturing 20 crops on a 15-day frequency. And essentially, the whole idea is to disseminate this data to the private sector. So I think that's one fantastic use case. Second, a lot of Indian crops are subject to pest attack. Now, with the use of weather data and other data coming from soil, etc., you can actually predict the timing of pest attack, and you can transmit that advisory in real time to a lot of farmers to save their crops. Or the third is soil data. You'll be aware Indian soil is in a difficult situation. Our macro and micronutrients are depleting, and that's why productivity is stagnating. Again, you capture a lot of data from the soil using spectrometry, some chemical-based reagents, build some AI layer, and within 30 minutes you get the result. What is the deficiency in the soil, which otherwise take months. Using a soil testing laboratory kind of a method. So AI is impacting Indian agriculture like never before. And of course, I can talk about how agri SMEs are also using some of the AI tools and as we go along. Thank you.
Right. Also, I think it's been quite like you may not necessarily associate farmers as the first source of point when you think of AI, but there have been some very interesting innovations that are being done in agriculture in this space, as you also mentioned. So I think more interesting innovations are to come in this space as well. And I want to talk a bit about the AI tools, and I want to ask Puneet on this that if you could tell us more about some of the AI tools that SMEs must leverage to grow further as business enterprises.
So thanks for this question and routing it to me, because I deal with 20,000 SMEs today. They are my customers. So, and most of the time I suggest them to use certain tools. The first tool which I always recommend is, Google Workspace and Microsoft Copilot, right? These are two tools which are having inbuilt AI. Again, if you look at the AI race, these are the two big companies who are in the forefront of it, right? So Google Workspace has Google Gemini, which helps you, drafting your mail, summarizing your mail, etc. Plus your document creation, etc. So it's a very good tool for collaboration and AI adoption. The second tool which I recommend my customers is the Canva, right? You can create whatever kind of image you want to create. It's just 5 minutes job, right? So, priorly you used to depend on the graphic designer to create something, and then here you are with Canva, you can just command and it does. The third, I in fact insist my customers to use is the tool called Suno. Okay, Suno creates music for you, right? It creates lyrics for you, it creates music, and trust me, when the environment is musical, you are more productive, right? I use
Yeah,
myself.
definitely.
I've created so many songs for my own company, and I just play it in my office. People love it, right? So likewise, for productivity, you can use Google Workspace or Microsoft Copilot. For designing, you can use Canva, right? Or you want to write something, some emails or anything, you can use ChatGPT also, right? Google Gemini is also there. Then QuickBook has option. Zoho Books has an option. We use Zoho Zia for analyzing our own CRM data. So there are multiple tools available in the market which they can use, and trust me, they are very easy to use. They use a technology which is simple for anyone to understand and adapt, right? So multiple tools to be used, and the whatever I use personally, I always recommend it to my customers.
Right. I think a good idea would be to capitalize on Suno, as you said, and MSMEs trying it out and going to the next step once they try that as well. So definitely that would be something interesting for them to see. Uh, Sankar, I want to check with you about, do you feel like India has this need to develop its own basic AI model, which is customized to address local challenges and opportunities, especially if we talk about the MSME sector? Do you think that can help us uh, to adopt AI more seamlessly?
Yeah, so certainly it would be a great thing to have, right? While we have very well functioning models globally, which are very well adopted even today for our use cases as well, there are certainly very rich cultural ingredients that we carry, right? In specifically around the vernacular aspects, right? The number of languages, accents, the ability of models to catch and convert voice to text of various Indian accents and Indian languages. So there are clearly use cases. And even from a supply chain perspective, right? Clearly, there are intricacies around Indian customers' buying behavior, our festivals, how seasonalities differ, right? And that is again region by region, it is very rich and varied. So certainly, adding all these nuances will help us. But beyond models, not just them, but also having a wider ecosystem of AI applications, right? Puneet did mention several of those. And in addition to that, specific Indian use case related applications, right? Many vendors and startups are working on those, and having a rich ecosystem that will also, accelerate adoption for MSMEs and maybe.
Okay, so some of these things will actually help in, in faster adoption. That's what you're saying,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
right?
But they are not limiting factors for now. I'm saying we can certainly start with what we have, which is already quite rich, right? This will all be icing on the cake to address the very specific nuances that we have as a very rich and diverse country, right? In that sense, it will certainly help. And a lot of products that are coming on those lines as well. Maybe a year down the couple of years, you'll see several more apps very specifically dealing with the problem statements within the context of India, right? So that's just going to make this better.
Right. So some customized offerings, which could be around the corner. Uh, Kapil, we've heard a lot about the use cases, about the potential, and how MSMEs can benefit from this. But of course, they face a lot of financial constraints and other bottlenecks when it comes to adopting AI. So, could you tell us more on some of the limitations that they face and how can they really come around that?
I feel the limitation is essentially lack of knowledge and the mindset. It's probably not financial. I mean, most of the surveillance solutions or even data solutions, which the fellow panelists have said, have essentially a SaaS model inbuilt in that. So there is no need for you to actually invest on capex in terms of server or for compute and storages. I mean, there are models available with a lot of cloud companies where you actually pay as you go. It's probably the mindset. Some of the mindset issues we face with some of our customers is like a data privacy issue because it's a video image AI which we process. So they are concerned about whether the manufacturing process is going to go leak, or there are certain, let's say, cloud kitchens where we have deployed some solutions for hygiene analytics, whether the person is wearing gloves, mask, and things like that, whether the process is being done in a right way. So there is a mindset issue where they believe that this data, because that's imaging and video kind of data, would get leaked, which is absolutely, I think there are ways and means to solve that problem. The other is that the cloud adoption, which has gradually increased, and most of the video AI, for example, now runs in cloud. We have in-prem versions also, can essentially take care of our financial problems where you actually pay as you go. So it's probably a mindset and a knowledge problem, and not really a actual financial constraint in some sense.
So I think, yeah, a lot of changes to happen around that area as well. Hemendra, specifically in the context of agriculture, if we talk about financial management for MSMEs, how can AI help to transform that? Could you tell us more on that?
Sure, I think there's a huge potential. In agri SME, I'll tell you most of the SMEs are B2B. So they typically have very thin margins. If you look at their EBITDA, early teens and PBT maybe 5%, PAT 3%, right? And they have very limited play on the upside by increasing prices because of the high degree of competition, right? So that boils down to how efficiently you buy and process, right? How do you optimize your cost? And that's where I think AI can play a huge role. So typically, let's say raw material cost is maybe 80 to 90% of your turnover, right? And you can use multiple AI tools to figure out when to buy, what to buy, where to buy, and what quality to buy. There's some fantastic quality assaying tools available, which can capture moisture, protein content, broken grains, things like that, both physical and biochemical parameters by which you can even decide the price to pay to your vendor. So I think that's one area. Second big cost for a lot of SMEs in the food processing and as well as agriculture is logistics cost. If you add up inbound and outbound logistics, that's could be anywhere in the range of 5 to 12%, right? So you need to optimize it, and that's where route optimization solutions are. Again, AI has a huge role to play. Overlaying on likes of Google Maps or other tools available. So you optimize that cost. The third cost is working capital. Most SMEs have working capital, cycles of 90 to 120 days, and they pay almost 15% interest rate. That's quite expensive. So how do you optimize your inventory? How do you optimize your debtors and creditors and all that? So even reducing that cycle by 10-15% makes a huge impact on your bottom line. So, and of course, then there are elements of energy efficiency, labor efficiency. There are some fantastic tools available. I'm also associated with Bharat Innovation Fund, and we've invested in a company called Detect, which uses AI tools for predictive maintenance. So that reduces the downtime significantly. You know the event before it occurs, right? And you can take a lot of measures. So I think it is all pervasive. It is all pervasive, and most SMEs should see it as an investment rather than as an expense. And I completely agree. It's more of a pay-per-use model. So it's not that you have to spend a few $1 million to get it going. You can use any SaaS application and integrate these tools. And I'm seeing that happening. A lot of SMEs are also going through generational shift, especially the younger generation, which is coming into management, and they are very well aware. They are very well aware, and The adoption level is pretty good. Of course, we can do far better, but I'm very happy the way it is progressing.
Great. Of course, some of these issues will remain in terms of some of the financial bottlenecks are there, but it's about finding solutions around that. And as you said, integrating a SaaS model also is something which they can consider. In this context, Puneet, I want to ask that, we heard some of the things which Hemendra has said about management, financial management. So, what are some of the low-hanging fruit adoptions that SMEs should consider in AI? Especially like if they have certain constraints, etc., at the hem of it, what can really be their go-to?
So I wanted to add on to Kapil's comment is that most of the time MSMEs, since I deal with so many, right, I've realized one thing that they always look at the cost. They don't look at the opportunity which cost brings, right? So if you look at the opportunity, you got better opportunities, bigger opportunities to look at. So the way I look at it is that, if you want to win the battle of tomorrow, you need the tools of today, which are relevant today and which are going to be helping you tomorrow, right? So most of the time, MSMEs do not invest, they look at the cost. I will always say that don't look at cost, look at investment you are doing, correct? And that's where the change happened. Now, simple examples, all of them are using WhatsApp, correct? Can they not have auto replies on WhatsApp? We can all have it. It's simple, right? It just needs an AI tool to help you. They all participate in the exhibitions, right? There are tools which, straight away capture the details of the participant or visitor and send them an email, WhatsApp with the catalog and price list, whatever they want to, right? Much simpler things, right? These are the use cases they can use, like for the accounting as well, right? Today, if you ask me, my company, I have a simple thought that, okay, how many people I need to generate invoices? So in a rough way, we generate around 10,000 invoices in a day, correct? We use hardly 2 people. Rest all the invoices are generated automatically. These 2 people are only needed for validating that these invoices are correctly generated. And they are also randomly checked, right? So these are small things like automating your invoicing, automating your WhatsApp replies or email replies, simple, right? Or having a chatbot on your website. Very simple AI chatbot can answer from all the questions which are there in their in the buyer's mind from your website, right? It can be voice-based chatbot. It can be text-based chatbot. Very simple things. Now, these are not very costly things. They are as pay-as-you-go models. You use them. If you don't like them, just cancel the subscription next month. So these are small things they can do it. Social media integration, WhatsApp integration, and all this is possible with the tools which they are also using today, like Google Workspace or Microsoft Copilot. It is much easier.
Right. So yeah, of course, everybody is using WhatsApp, and very small and interesting aspects or examples you gave, which can be used to begin their onward journey in this sector. Uh, Sankara, if we can talk a little bit about global examples and also tie it to what Puneet said, how do things really pan up for them when it comes to AI use cases among SMEs, and what are some of the lessons that India can take from that? Uh, Shankar, you're on mute.
Yeah. So Neha, like you mentioned right at the start when you set the context, right? Clearly, adoption in some of the advanced parts of the world are much higher, right? And the reasons to that, one is the foundational infrastructure, the availability of data, right? The geo data, etc., are far more precise. So there's a lot of adoption, and there are clear use cases In areas I think our fellow panelists also covered clearly marketing, say, customer service, right? Within the manufacturing side, leveraging IoT and Internet of Things to look at all the sensor-based data to come up with a lot of use cases around predictive maintenance and things around that, right? Even from a supply chain perspective, inventory management. So across the value chain of an organization, there are clear, leverage of these use cases, right? So that is a clear trend, and even at a AI culture level, right? The amount of AI usage on your day-to-day tasks by various employees of organizations, it's pretty popular these days, right? And we spoke about even now using it for your day-to-day emails, summarizing documents, faster responses, designs, automated designs. So there is enough and more where on a day-to-day task, even at an individual level, people can embrace a lot more AI, right? Those are clearly some things that we can learn. And at the core, how do we drive, let's say, a culture of AI, right? Which is not something that has to be grand and multi-million dollar, with investment, but with very, very manageable investment. And Kapil rightly spoke about the mindset there, right? So how do we further make people embrace that mindset at a task level? How do you make innovation, even in smaller organizations, right? So Puneet spoke about 10,000 invoices and how people are automating. It is going to automatically create encouragement for other teams. So clearly, looking at these smaller wins, smaller opportunities, and showing the results to get people more enthused. Also leading by example, right? Where the senior leaders show how they themselves use AI and they talk about it and how they encourage their teams. Also invest in some bit of learning and development for organizations. And in fact, today that is again become super, cost effective in the sense there are several even free courses, right? There are enough and more enablement courses across the internet that organizations can encourage their employees to pick up to start with, and appreciate their innovation, make them feel good about it. So these are clearly some of the cultural changes that we can make that will democratize adoption. You will automatically see everybody in your company starts using, people coming up new use cases, and eventually that will result in your productivity and even a very vibrant environment, right? So that's something I think we could all pick up.
Yeah, it's like creating a chain reaction, creating that culture which
Yes,
everybody picks up on. And
making it a movement than just a project or a program or a business initiative, right? It's much more than that, right? It's becoming 2x productive each individual, right? It's a huge gift. It's maybe 50 years before it would be one of the superhero traits, right? Which people who don't know to sing can create a song. You can make a movie from your house. There's so many things. These are very cost inexpensive, but it just requires that creativity and interest.
definitely, definitely. Kapil, if I can ask you now, in terms of what we just heard, creating a culture and AI is no less than a gift. But what sectors in India's MSME segment would you think have the scope of using AI for scaling up operations? Like maybe they have a greater scope of using it.
So I would broadly actually classify MSCs, MSMEs into two categories. One is IT software MSMEs and the traditional industries, right? So IT software, actually, the adoption is much higher. A company of our size, 500 people. I mean, we used to take 3 days to write a code. Now, Chat GPT gives us in half an hour. Of course, we validate it. Takes a couple of hours more. So the productivity of code writing, for example, has massively increased, and that can be, I'm sure, it's across IT and software industry. Uh, the traditional industries, the mindset problem or the lack of knowledge problem is definitely there, but I can clearly see that's something, as an industry we have to solve, right? We have to reach out to them, we have to say this is the problem we can solve for you. And of course people do benefit analysis and see the cost and investment kind of approach. On the L&D, I want to add to Sankram. There is one innovative thing we do for last 3 years. 5% of the gross salary actually is the L&D expense, learning and development cost, which we have mandated. It's not optional, which the members of our company get only once they do a certain course. It could be in AI, it could be in any other areas which is more learning development. So that's one organization change which SMEs can bring in, where L&D actually becomes critical part of the system rather than an optional, once in a time appraisal kind of thing. Okay, do this course and do that course. So 5% of the gross salary is actually given as reimbursement for last 3 years in Vihant as L&D expenses only to bring about this change of learning. And of course, AI is one of the key frontiers which we add as an organization. For traditional industry, I believe that it's actually the mindset and the job of companies like us or Puneet's company. They have to reach out to the industry and said, these are the changes you can bring in, look at their problems, solve the problems. And I'm sure gradually, as they see adoption and increase benefit, efficiency, improve compliances, reduce cost, it will be a chain reaction which will happen. Manpower cost, as I said, is still cheaper in India. So a lot of people start weighing AI tools with the manpower. But I'm sure this equation will change. And there will be a mass adoption of AI across industries. Adoption can be anywhere, to answer your specific question. It could be, in manufacturing, it could be in industrial segment, safety surveillance as we anyways act on it. There is a massive need for AI for safety compliances. People don't understand one incident in your operations are actually very expensive in India. I mean, though they can be managed, but the labor challenges are really critical. Companies are going towards safety compliances in, let's say, building and construction space. So AI, video surveillance AI can play a massive role in terms of reliable checking whether the people are wearing the right gears and other things to do their operations. So I see multiple industries touching AI, and AI is actually a phenomena. It's not one product, one tool. It's pervasive. It could be in video, it could be in data. So I clearly see a very positive path ahead. Mindset change has to be pushed through with players like us who have to go to the customers and explain the problem statement and the benefit they will get. And once people see the benefit, pilots would be done. I'm sure the adoption will definitely increase across non-IT sectors also.
But do you think mindset is the main bottleneck, is one of the major bottlenecks here to really see through when it comes to MSME sector?
Mindset and knowledge. I think these are the only barriers. See, the tools are available, SaaS models are available, they're not very expensive. So somebody has to pay, let's say, 9 rupees, let's say, per person per month. It's actually not a big cost, right? But it's just a mindset of and a knowledge that these things are available, right? Because SMEs are actually very busy in their own operations. They don't have a specialized, a chief information officer, a CTO who would look into these kind of things, right? So it's the owner who has to actually spend time and energy on finding these tools. So I think so it's a mindset and the knowledge. If that is sorted out, I think industry has already sorted out the financial models.
Right. Hemendra, adding to Kapil's question, I want to know from you some of the interesting use cases in AI that have helped to generate profitable outcomes for the MSME sector.
Yeah, so I completely agree with the other fellow panelists that AI is no longer an option, and it will become more like a hygiene factor. There'll be two kind of companies who adopt and who don't will ultimately cease to exist. I can even say that because the way things are changing. So I think of course I would say we are in the early stage of adoption curve, but those who have adopted have definitely seen the benefit, right? In our investor lingo, we call it unit economics. So paying $1 for an AI tool, am I saving $3 or am I generating business of another $3, right? So I think it's a matter of time those equations will get established. And as I mentioned, the benefits are across the value chain, right? From buying your raw material to optimizing your inventory to reducing your working capital cycle. I'm also hopeful that banks and financial institutions will use AI in credit scoring, right? Again, if you look at MSME, one of the biggest reason for high cost of capital, which is, as I said, for working capital, 15, 16%, things like that is very common. So how do you use alternate data or multiple data points which has not been used so far, or transactional data which has been very difficult to process at this scale? Can you use AI to build interesting credit scoring model, which essentially bring the cost of capital down? I can tell you the impact it can have is humongous. A 15% interest rate, a 12% interest, and a 9% interest rate can change the destiny of a lot of these MSMEs. The reason a lot of MSMEs are not able to invest in R&D is precisely because they don't have cash surplus. A lot of it goes as an interest payment, right? So I think, I can go on and on, but there are multiple areas where AI can do wonders. I think one additional point I want to make, I think there also has to be a policy initiative. Ultimately AI efficacy will improve with more data training, right? And thankfully we are a large country, large demographics, the number of transactions, take any industry, is humongous. How do we build, this public data stacks, whether it is, your UPI or GSTN or DigiLocker or whatever, which is, of course, you have to get the consent of the owner of the data. But how do we use this digital public data stack to train the data for better efficacy and accuracy? So I think we also need to build a policy sort of perspective so that, the tools become more and more effective and bring the cost of these AI tools also down. Ultimately, in our country, affordability is key to drive any innovation. So that's where I think we probably need to make a ecosystem effort, especially for MSMEs, which individually probably maybe can't invest or don't have a culture to invest in some of these tools. Some of them can be actually public tools, as mentioned by my fellow panelists. Some of the I would say IT MSMEs can develop tools for other MSMEs, right? Because they understand the pain point like no one else. So yeah, that's how I see adoption going up.
Right. In fact, you alluded to R&D, and I want to ask Sankara about this. That where does India really stand in terms of R&D or innovation in AI versus globally? Are our solutions cost efficient?
So certainly R&D is a big use case even beyond the MSME. A lot of pharma companies in India use AI on the for new product development, R&D, big time, right? And in fact, many of the global businesses are setting up their AI centers of excellence in India, right? It's the same talent. In that sense, there is R&D is one very big use case, for AI adoption. And certainly a lot of that capabilities are built in India, but this is beyond the MSME sector. Even a lot of global R&D work now gets outsourced to India, and building AI centers of excellence, looking at use cases, value creation through AI. So globally, there is increasing dependence and also recognition of India as a powerhouse in terms of AI talent that can help drive those adoption. Right. So certainly that can also spill over and support, better quality use cases, better quality solutions for even adoption of MSME players.
Right. Puneet, we've heard about a lot from other panelists about how it can really benefit MSMEs, how tasks such as inventory management, customer service accounting, they can be automated using AI, and how this can really help them to free up their time and focus on more strategic activities. So which brings me to the final question addressed to you, that do you feel AI is the next frontier for the MSME sector?
Absolutely. In fact, the way industrial revolution came, then knowledge revolution came. Today is the time of AI revolution. If you look at few days back, some report which came that it said that to have the first billion users, Google took 5 years, and ChatGPT took hardly 1 year. Right. So practically, it is 5x faster. So we and the if you look at the ChatGPT user base, right, India stands number one, then followed by US. So we are in the frontier of this, right? We are making sure that things are happening. It's just that we need to change our mindset, especially when it comes to MSME, prioritizing their focus area, prioritizing their investment, and making sure that what they need, identifying that if AI can help me with that. If that works well for them, in fact, it works for many of them. So I feel, yeah, we are in the forefront of it, and we are going to reap the benefit of it. At the same time, we have a challenge. We have a problem of plenty, right? Too many people who are not so IT skilled or say AI skilled, correct? So there's going to be a huge divide, AI enabled and non-AI enabled people. We have to solve that problem. But for the time being, I see at least for 5 years, we are leading, and we will, after 5 years, we'll have that kind of scenario where we'll have to worry about the skilling other people.
Kapil, do you want to add to that? Final thoughts?
I think the R&D culture is massively increasing on AI. AI is the new frontier. There is no doubt on that. And it's not just in our sector, but also data. AI should not be taken as a new technology. It is actually a shift in how you handle data and how do you make decisions. So that's very critical. SMEs traditionally have been a single person decision making kind of a thought process. So there are two statements which I would make here. Adoption is challenging because if this guy does not get convinced, and adoption is very easy if this guy gets convinced. So I think it's up to the players like us, Puneet and others who are in the space to kind of influence these users, show them the benefit. And I'm pretty sure they will adopt AI. They are adopting AI, which will definitely improve their processes, efficiencies, and release their time from mundane activity, as you mentioned, to a more strategic and growth kind of perspective. There would be a divide. There is no doubt on that. Some people will be left behind who would not understand the value of that. But I think that's the survival of fittest or the natural evolution, which will anyways happen. So let's see.
Yeah, so I think it's become more than just a technological upgrade. It is a strategic necessity today for the MSME sector to look at and adopt. And as you said, mindset along with knowledge is what can really make all the difference and take things forward. Thank you so much for all of you for joining us today and giving us those insights. I'm sure it will be of great insight to the sector and for the experts in this domain. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
As we wrap up today's MSME online program, I extend a heartfelt thanks to all our speakers, panelists, and participants for their valuable time, insights, and contributions. I also want to thank our sponsors, the New India Assurance Company Limited and IDBI Bank. Please remember, the registrations for MSME Awards is open now, so please go and nominate yourself. We are looking at our next set of stellar MSMEs, and you can be this year's winner. So please log into economictimes.com and register. Thank you so much for watching.